breaking news on the block.
Get down.
Let me clear my throat. Oh, that's better. That's better. Somebody pass around the offering. Since I'm always preaching on tracks, you feel me? I might as well get paid for it. Sermon of the day. You right where you supposed to be, baby. Informants informing, that information forming. And you get a portion of fortune pouring. Confession, fortunately, blessings on now they snoring. You mellow, so focus on scoring. Got your underperforming. I never expect something, never assume nothing. Judging me for my past, but that's why I'm triumphant. I don't demand, I know where I stand like engineer hands. Watch how my life pans. That game plan, show out like a jotter, pop out like a cutter. Telling the kick rock, skipping the course, squares like hopscotch. This gonna be my mood to my beat drop. Putting my boogie shoes in my diddy boots, ain't no stop. I'ma make the rest of my life live. Yeah, I'ma make the rest of my life live. Gonna make the rest of my life the best of my life. Yeah, I'ma make the rest of my life live. I'ma make the rest of my life live. Gonna make the rest of my life the best of my life. Congratulations on the celebration. I know I'm dope without a need of a validation. No congratulations on no celebration. I know I'm dope without a need of a validation. Yeah. If having hope is dangerous, call me evil Knievel. You leading on the wrong side, living with peasant needles. So lethal, made Shane Black wanna write a sequel. Cause I snuggle my dream till it's seen as illegal. And I still probably will, cause I can never give up. I got my goals calling me, how could I never pick up? Either we make up or just break up.
Happy Thursday, happy Thursday, happy Thursday. Welcome to another great Thursday night conversation. How are y'all doing out there today? I hope everybody is doing well and has had an amazing week so far. What's good, good people? I hope everyone is good. So like, subscribe, and share, guys. Let's get some people in the place. Excuse me, y'all. I'm kind of getting over. I was a little sick. Been a little under the weather. Well, a lot under the weather, but thanks be unto God, we are here and feeling way, way better than what I was. It was rough. It was rough pickings for a minute. But guess what? It's another great Thursday night that we are here with you, and I'm grateful for that. So welcome to the Bravo with Sheila Network. I am your Thursday night host, your girl, Lady Dawn B, in the place, and I'm grateful for another opportunity to come and share great conversation with you guys. I can't believe that we are almost done with December. Christmas is next week, and then it will be the new year. I hope you got some really good plans, some really good things scheduled for yourself for the new year, but we'll talk about that next week. Next week, we're going to talk about wrapping it up. So, again, welcome tonight. Come on, let's like, subscribe, and share. Do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button, please. It is free, $99. Okay, it doesn't cost you anything, but it does help to push up in our algorithm and get this great content shared to more people. We appreciate it. It takes nothing but one little push. And again, y'all bear with me tonight, okay? Because again, I'm just getting over being sick. It was real touch and go. But again, thanks be unto God. He's a keeper. Okay, when nobody else shows up for you, the Lord is always there. At least that's my moral compass. So with that being said, you know that the Bravo with Sheila Network, we are not a Christian platform. Although the majority of us that do come on this platform and share on Thursday nights are believers. However, we are open to everyone's thoughts, comments, feelings, opinions, whatever your moral compass is. We do respect it. We appreciate it. And we encourage you to share on here with us. We want to engage in great conversation one with the other. And the number one thing is respect. So we ask everyone to just be respectful in your comments and responses to one another. Okay? All right. And we'll be good. Of course, we cannot begin the night without paying homage to the Queen Bee of the Bravo with Sheila Network. She is my Auntie Bravo, also known as Pastor Sheila Ingram. We give her a bravo, saying thank you as always for yielding me this captain's chair on Thursday night so I can come spend time with you and you, where we have real conversation with real resolutions. That's our goal, just to converse. We are not experts. We don't profess to be. This is not counseling. This is conversation. We all speak from the well of our experiences. However, some of us are licensed and professionals and doctors, hold, doctorates and other types of educational accomplishments along the way that help us to be, in the space to share. However, we just to come to share on tonight and every night from our experience. Again, just real conversation, real resolutions. So I want to, before I forget, and I'm sorry, I just have to do one little house cleaning thing. Sorry, y'all. Bear with me 1 second. Okay. So, there we go. As I was saying, so we want you to join us here. Like, subscribe, and share to the channel because there is amazing content that goes on here. On Monday nights, you have my girls, Coach Pache and Dr. Elaine. They come on with Mondays Beyond the Mic, having great talks. A lot of us, we do a lot of relationship talk because relationships are the key to life. We have to, no man is an island. We need one another. And we want to be able to start to heal and build and bond better for ourselves, better for our communities, and better for life, right? I would say the most important relationship of all is the one that you have with yourself. So we want to make sure that we are good and in good spaces, right? All right. So again, if you like, subscribe, and share, you will not miss any of the great content here on the Bravo with Sheila Network. And again, we do respect everyone's choices, everyone's feelings, and everyone's opinions. We also want to tell you that if you do need some spiritual advice, you need a little pick me up, a little encouragement, a little swing low, sweet chariot, come forward to carry me home in my soul, you can do that over at right across the street at the Sheila Ingram Ministries Network. Over there, you will find Pastor Sheila herself sharing on a daily basis so many wonderful things. She has the kabod, there's early morning prayer, there's midnight prayer, there's all kinds of prayer, there's the word. She shares through the kabod. It is amazing. We have my mom who pushed me out by birth. Pastor Rosa is on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. And we have the Women of Grace, my 3 special ladies. They come on Fridays at 11 a.m. It's right across the street. Right across the street from here. You can't miss it. They come on at 11 a.m. That is Pastor Sheila, Reverend Jenny, a.k.a. my auntie gangster, and my mom, Pastor Rosa Harper. The 3 of those ladies, I'm telling you, you go over there, it is a time to be had when you get over there with them. So I encourage you to share, to like, subscribe, share to both channels. Don't miss any of this great content. And we look forward to continuing to talk with you. So let's see who we've got in the building already on tonight. I think that's all housekeeping. Oh, we're going to keep it pushing. So let's see who we got in the building so far. Oh, we have Anae Kenya, the greatest moderator to ever do it in these YouTube streets. We love you, beautiful. I don't know where we would be without you. I don't know how we would make it, but we're thankful that you are here and you are with us. Hey, my Anae. And then we have my Ken, the Ace Perspective, saying hello. And she says, Pastor Sheila, we are grateful for you. We sure are. We celebrated her, gave her flowers while she could smell them last month, made sure to say hello and give her some love. And speaking of her, she is in the comments on tonight saying, you look beautiful, niece. Oh, thank you, auntie. I'm trying to, it's grace but grace now. Grace plus grace. I'm in my grace plus grace season, which is good for some people because I'm giving out extra grace in this season. Yeah. It's grace plus grace. I got more grace to share, so I'm giving more. But thank you so much, auntie. I appreciate that. Trying to keep it together. Not trying. We doing it. Who we get? And then we have my sis, the prophetess, but she comes on here and she is just my lady Risha. She says hello, y'all, from the TX, her and my kin. the ace perspective. She says, yes, Anae is the best. She sure enough is. I don't care what nobody say. Anae, you are all that and then some. As Trisha would say, you are that chick. Okay? That's who you are. You be that. And then some. And we have my Candanese lady doing is gracefully gorgeous. Watch yourself now. Don't make me do it. Don't make because I might just get up tonight. I don't know. I'm feeling some kind of way in my feelings. Okay, just feeling some kind of way in my feelings. So we'll try to behave myself. That never works out, but we gonna make it do what it can do. But we always behave. It's just how we behave is really the question. So we thank everyone for joining us on tonight. And we have a great topic. It's one that I feel is very necessary. And again, guys, please like, subscribe, and share. I promise you it won't be somber. I promise you it won't, because we are a people who we believe in joy. Again, y'all, I'm a God's girl, so you're going to get a little Jesus every time you get me. That's right. That's my moral compass, okay? So whatever yours is, we respect it. We respect it. And we got Coach Pache in the house, okay? I don't want to forget her. We got her in the house. I don't know why these comments don't let her be great. They just don't. They just say, but that's all right. We got something for that. She good. She know how to. We know how to make it work when she ready to say something, okay? Because I'm gonna be her voice on tonight. You know what to do, Coach Pache. It's me and you, tag team, high five. We got this. We got this on lock. So on tonight, again, this is not a counseling session. This is a conversation. However, we do want to let you know that we do have some counselors that are licensed, authorized, legitimate counselors who she says, love you. Yes, I do. Come on here. Come on in here. We having fun already, y'all. But we do have licensed counselors and therapists. Our Pastor Sheila is a licensed clinician. So if you do need counseling, therapy, and we have other people that are connected to our network, Cheryl Hardy, and we can get all this information to you at any point that you may need. You can reach out to anyone on the Bravo and Sheila network, and we will be happy to connect you to someone that you can speak with who is a legitimate counselor, therapist, for whatever your needs may be. Okay, in 2025, I'm letting y'all know we having a session called I have it already ready. Okay, it's gonna be coffee, Jesus, and therapy. Okay, we gonna go in. We gonna do all three, because long gone are the days where we could just pray over stuff. Okay, we're not doing that no more. All right, we need to pray. We need a cup of coffee sometimes, and we need to sit down on the couch. You know what I'm saying? That's what we need to do. That's what we need to do. So tonight, I'm going to bring up my ladies that are here so far, and a few other people maybe will be popping in a little bit, and we're going to open up this conversation. So as I said, it is my kin, my girl, also from the TX. There's one and only, there's none other like her, and I love her bones, every bit of her, in the person of my Anitra Ace, the Ace Perspective Carter. Come on up, my kin. How are you, beautiful?
Good evening. How are you?
I'm wonderful.
I'm underdressed because you is gracefully gorgeous. I'm like, the sparkle is on today. I'm like, oh my. I love it.
I'm just.
I'm loving all of it. All of it. All the joy.
Thank you. Listen, I ain't got no more time, and no more tears to cry. Ain't got no more time to waste. Okay? I didn't to my grace plus grace to sit and be sad. We ain't do that. All right. We are living life like it's golden, because it is. Don't
and I love it. I'm here for it.
But you gotta keep up or you get left. But ain't no going back. That's all I'm saying. That's the type of time I'm on.
I like it.
I'm up now.
2025, let's go.
Say what? You should have left me sleeping while I was in slumber, but I'm up now. Just saying, y'all. Just I told y'all this would not be boring. I promise you, it's not gonna be somber. It's gonna be a great conversation. And let's see who else we got. We got my girl, Lady Zinja, is in the house. How you doing, sis? She says, "Good evening, all." She is the other half, or the 100 to the 100 of the Team Bloomfield. My brethren. Brother Gregory, Elder Gregory, who comes on every now and then when he can. And we thank her for being in the house with her beautiful self. I'm so glad you joined us. Hugs of love to you and my brethren. I love you guys. So also, before we get started, I'm going to bring up, Texas be hitting heavy, and we got two heavyweights from the TX. Okay, I'm so glad that they belong to me and I belong to them. All right, I'm TX by way of New York. Okay, I'm gonna be NYTX. That's what I'm gonna be.
Right?
Surrogate Texan, because I got to hold it down for NYC in the Bronx all the time. So, but she is my sis from a heavenly mister. All right, y'all have heard her voice, and you will continue to hear it. I can't wait for the things that are happening in 2025. But I'm gonna bring her up. She is my amazing and beautiful sis. I tell you, all my sisters are gorgeous. My God. We are proof that God does all things well. I'm just saying. So come on up here with your all things well self. All right.
Hello, ladies. Hello, room. Hello, ladies. What's going on? What's the tea? I feel underdressed. I feel underdressed.
Do you feel underdressed? Because I feel underdressed. When I see this, I was like,
so like all the things. I feel underdressed.
I know not what you mean. I was told
the universe does.
Okay. I was told it was time to show up, so I showed up. That's all I was.
And did.
Period.
I was just showing up. That's all.
And show up you have.
And well, because I don't want to disappoint nobody. I don't disappoint nobody.
Disappointment. Yeah, ain't no disappointments.
Ain't no disappointment on my watch. Not on my watch. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
So thank you, ladies, for joining tonight. And again, we're gonna have a few other people who we're expecting, but that's all right. We hope that they come, but we are here and we are ready to dig into this conversation. I'm putting my glasses on. I ain't gonna try to play with it. I'm gonna act like, because Grace Plus Grace hasn't covered this yet. We didn't get it right from the top. And Ladies In just says, showed up and showed out. Oh, well, all right. I'm just saying, y'all. It's a constant celebration. Listen, life is too short. And I know that we say that a lot, and it's a cliche, but the truth of the matter, life really is too short. I don't have time for, to be sad. Not that life doesn't happen and we don't, we overlook it. I allow myself, and my sister Risha can attest to this because she's been walking me through a particular journey lately. I give myself 24 hours. I just, when it gets to midnight, when midnight is over, whatever it is over. That's it. You only got till midnight. You can only occupy this space for me in my mind, my heart, my emotions till midnight. When midnight comes, when that day is over, whatever's going on is over too. And the next day, we're going to start off better than where we were the day before. So I say that to encourage all of us to really live out this experience of life being too short. Yeah. We don't have time, and the time that we do have, we need to make good use of. You know what I'm saying? So listen, put on your Sunday best, put your ball gown on, show up, okay? All right?
Coming in ball gowns 2025. We coming all the way. We coming in ball gowns.
Play with me.
We're going to be in with them.
Doing it. You're going to do all the things.
Need I?
Well, come on.
We really are underdressed.
Okay. I'm playing. Play with me.
All hail to the queen. Come on.
Put it on. Men, go get your crown. Put it on. Put it on. Okay. Take every opportunity every single day. All right. Just do it. Put it on, wear it, make it happen. Whatever you need to do to make you feel good. All right. We'll stop giving in to the bad feelings, although we do acknowledge and recognize them, and we take them for what they are, but they don't have the right to occupy, to take residence in our lives. You can be in that space temporarily, and we kind of already in our conversation, but you can be in that space temporarily, but you cannot reside here. I can only give you but so much time. These things come with an expiration date, and they are a process. But I'm just saying, just do what you got to do to show up. Whatever it is that you feel like, listen, feel it, do it, make it happen, walk in it. Let people talk about you all they want to. They're going to talk anyway. Coach P says, I love it. Listen, I don't know what version of the Lady Dawn B y'all gonna get in 2025. I think I'm starting to scare myself a little bit, but it's all right. We gonna find out together. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. But tonight we have a touching conversation. I don't want it to be triggering. And I just want everyone to know that, again, this is not going to be a somber conversation. We're talking about growing through grief. And the thing is, excuse me 1 second. Because I have all the things.
All the
things. I told y'all I was recovering. I got sick, and that's why I have all of the things, all the things. And in a minute, I'm gonna put my sash on too. Don't play with me.
Oh, well, come through.
Please like, subscribe, and share. Okay. Oh, Coach P says I'm here for it. Come through. Okay, because it's right here. It's right here. It can happen at any moment. Okay. But tonight's conversation, we're talking about growing through grief, and we really want to focus more on the growth part than we do on the grief part. Because grief is going to happen. Grief comes when there's a loss of some kind. And oftentimes, a lot of us are grieving over people, places, and things. And again, y'all excuse me tonight. I'm so sorry. I'm still trying to get rid of this in my throat. So y'all pray hard. And let's see who we have here. I'm sorry, before we get into this, we have the woman who's responsible for me being here. All right. I am her 4 of 4. Okay. And you can catch her across the street on the Sheila Ingram Ministries Network at 10 a.m. on Tuesdays. Don't miss it. I promise you. She is none other than Pastor Rosa. Come on through, Ma, with your little self. Hi.
Mama Rosa is here.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Mary. I'm celebrating. How you doing? You see, I'm celebrating life today.
Oh, okay.
Oh. She is not moved. She is not surprised.
She said, "Oh, okay."
Because there ain't much that I can do that bothers her or shifts her anymore. She done seen some stuff.
I was like, do I have the right link?
Yep. You're in the right place. Excuse me, y'all. So, as we're getting into this conversation, and I'm sorry, y'all, I told you it was not going to be somber. You already know. On Thursdays, anything can happen. Our conversations always take a twist. And we want to talk about the growth, because we don't want to keep dragging things into the next day. And it's not because it's a new year. But again, I encourage you, when you've already made it through every worst day of your life, you've already overcome every challenge that you thought that you would not get over. You actually already defeated the very thing that you thought was going to kill you. You already did it. And it's proven because you're here. So you need to pat yourself on the back and look at the conqueror that you are. And with that being said, there's so many things that that we become confronted with in life that we carry with us. And we want to start leaving our baggage where it is. One way we leave our baggage where it is that we start unpacking it and figuring out really what is in this bag that I don't need, or what is in this bag that is too heavy, or what is in this bag that I don't need right now. What can I put to the side? What do I need to take out altogether? All of these things, excuse me, are a part of what keeps us back in life. And again, we know that grief happens, and grief happens to all of us. Sometimes the holiday seasons are the hardest for a lot of us because all of us, truth be told, we're all missing somebody at the table, someone on our list that we wish was there, whether they've been gone for 2 days, 2 hours, 3 weeks, 6 months, whatever it is. We have all been in that place, and we all are in that place. And again, grief is not just about losing people, because some people, again, we are losing people, places, and things. Some of us, we have memories of, man, I wish I was back when I was, in this house, or when I had this job, or when I was with these people. And we're still remembering that. And it's still bringing us to a point of being upset or depressed or frustrated with where we are. It's still tugging on our emotions. But we have to get to a place of growing past that, because we cannot go back to where we were. We cannot. History repeats itself when we don't learn from it. But at a certain point, we have to put a period on history and close the book so that we can start something new. Do you ladies agree?
Absolutely.
Anybody want to share anything before we go further in the conversation?
I just like the fact that you're bringing out the different facets of grief. We solely focus on death so much. We don't really deal with the fact of relationship grief, just time, memory, childhood memories, things that you go back in, and we call it nostalgia. But really, you can get into a place of grieving what used to be. And where you used to live, like you said, places, people, and things. And we only solely focus on someone going from, life to death. And then you miss out and don't realize. And even, and I was talking about this earlier. Well, last week I was talking about the transition when you grieve from going from one church to another. If you get transitioned to a church, there is a grieving process that we go through, and people don't even realize that they in a new church, but they don't realize what's happening to them is a moment of grief. So they don't know how to articulate that or actually grow through that, like you're saying. So I'm glad that we're touching on all of it so that people will have a very a broader view of what grief actually is in the totality of life.
Right.
Okay, that's good. Come on.
I think because I have experienced grief in many facets, and speaking about leaving the church, like that transition is happening today, like it is in real time. But what I've come to realize is people, they do associate grief with death, but the bigger word here is loss.
Yeah.
It's anything that you've lost, be it a friend, it could be time, space, continuum. And the problem, where we tend to get stuck and don't move forward, is we don't recognize it as loss. Or we recognize it as loss, but don't put it in the grief category, so we don't grieve it properly.
That's good.
And so when you don't enter into the process, because you've got to enter into the process. When you don't enter into the process, you get stuck. You get stuck on the memories. You get stuck on the places. You get stuck on the people. Usually death is something that is in our face, and we kind of have to push. People get stuck, but it forces you to push past, because that's a death. But losing a job, losing a car, losing a friend, losing the ability, when all you have is a memory of a place and you can't go there, all of those things are deaths to your life. And we have to enter the process to make sure that we don't get stuck in those things, and stuck with how we used to do a job, or how we used to worship at one church, or how we communicate with our friends, or even who we are. I'm a firm believer in, if I haven't talked to you in 6 months, then you no longer know me, because I should be progressing.
Wow.
And I know this is not the Bible, but the Bible says, old things have passed away. Behold, all things become new. That's a daily process. So that in itself is lost to who I am, lost to who I was. and not a bad thing, but I still need to process that because what was lost is what's comfortable. And comfortability keeps us stuck.
Come on.
That was good. And you're so right. You're so right. Did you want to add anything before I get further in the conversation, Mom?
I totally agree. I totally agree. My thought in the beginning was, when we think of grieving, we automatically think of death, the absence of someone's life. But like in the vows that we take, we said until death us do part. We assume that means that when one of us are buried. But many, many times the love is lost before the life is, and so, just being realistic with ourselves, there are going to be some things that we're gonna lose. We lose. I deal daily with not having to feed 4 children, not having to be responsible for 6 people. It's an adjustment, to my life right now. Now, I almost automatically go in and take out a whole pack of chicken or whatever, because I've had 6 people to feed. But now it's just me, and it's an adjustment. So, to me, like I was saying to Dawn earlier, death is a part of life, since we know this is not the Christian station, but truth of the matter is that from the time that it just didn't happen, something happened. And based on that, this is why we continue to lose things, why things continue to die, relationships die, trust die, and the consequences of it all is that someone is left wounded. And so how do we overcome? How do we deal, with the absence of whatever it was that made us a whole person at one time?
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. And thank you, ladies, for sharing. Coach P says losing a job. And she also says we must grieve anything we lose in life. And that's true. And I'm so glad that we are all focusing and understanding that, it's really about loss. At the end of the day, no matter what it is, there is a loss that happened, something we were once attached to, that we made room in our lives for, that is no longer there. And now we have this void. And how do we how do we live with the void? How do we get through it? I've learned to call it, when I pray for people, and again, we're not a Christian station over here, but again, we are, those of us who are on the platform this evening are all believers. And for us, again, I'll tell you, my moral compass is God. So you're going to get a little Jesus when you get me. And whatever your moral compass is, excuse me, we respect that as well. But this cough is killing me, y'all. But we have to find a way to work through that. And I call it discovering your new normal. Because even if it was, say, in a relationship, you started out in a relationship, we've all been married on this platform, and we've all been through divorce. The person wasn't always in our lives. We lived a whole life before them. But when they came into our lives changed, and we started living a different life. Upon the exit of the relationship, and upon the exit of that relationship, that person's presence, again, we have to now navigate our way backwards, kind of out of all the things that we built together. And we have to develop a new normal. We can't go back to what was, because the dynamic is totally different now. So, I always encourage people to discover your new normal. And in doing so, it doesn't discredit, it does not take away from what happened. It doesn't take away from your prior relationship. It doesn't mean that you have to forget that you ever lived this life with this person. It means that this chapter is closed. We've put closure on it. We've completed whatever our assignment, so to speak, was. And now we have to develop a new normal, just like we had to develop a new normal when they came into our lives. So whether it's a relationship, whether it's through actual loss of life, whether it's a job, we have a job, we had to adjust to having the job. We didn't always have it. We lose a job. Now we have to discover what our new normal and our new purpose is. Let me read some comments. Coach Pache says the Bible even tells us to die to self. Right. There are parts of us that we lose along the way. Sometimes we lose ourselves. I believe they're always, because everything in life is about relationship. Everything in life is about relationship. No man is an island. If we could do it on our own, God would not have created Eve, so to speak. And again, we're not getting biblical. I want y'all to think, we're gonna hop over to the Sheila Ingram channel so we can get all in the word. But we want to respect everyone. But if we could do this journey on our own, God would never have created companions. He would have never gave Adam Eve. He would never gave him a help. We don't have all the answers. If we could have gone through life on our own, we would have. If we could have fixed it for ourselves already, we would have. So there are parts of us that we lose along the way through different relationships. Some we need to lose and some we don't. Some fall off. Some we lose through wounds, through being wounded. And it grieves us, but we have to learn how to grow through that. The Bible says that except the seed fall to the ground, and die, there'd be no fruit. There's nothing else to spring up. You have to bury it. But through whatever it is that you're losing, there's always something else that can spring up from it and out of it. So we're talking about the growth part more so tonight than the grief. Again, because we all have experienced the grieving. We have all lost something. And welcome to the room tonight, my sister from the heavenly Mr. Reverend Deirdre. Tell me something good, Hill. She is the lead survey, the visionary of the Beloved Nation. They are an amazing group of people. I call them Beloved Nation. They're Beloved Ministries. Awesome. I'm a part of their prayer team, and I have the pleasure of every third Thursday praying with them on their platform, and I'm grateful for that. The Deirdre says, I never had biological children, but I had to grieve the loss of passing children, grieve the loss of passing childbearing age. I'm not sure if people understand. I've never had it, but I still grieve it. That is a great point, Dee. And that's another thing, a great point. Because that in and of itself is a grieving process. To find out that you cannot do, or you're past the time frame of the ability to do something, to produce something. And I can relate to that because I went through that to a degree. I was told I would not be able to have children. I was told I wouldn't, that I would struggle if I did. There was a whole bunch of things. And my son, who's now about to be 23, is a miracle in and of himself. So I remember when I was told, and I was young, I was like 25 or 27 when I was told that, and who at 27, you're just now starting out. And you're thinking, I'm going to get married, and then you're in a house full of kids, and you see little kids playing, and you want a little I remember grieving those words. So I totally understand what you mean, Dee. Grieving the loss of the loss of an opportunity, I would say. And so grief is something that has many forms, but we grow through that. Excuse me, we have to grow through that. There comes a point of acceptance. There comes a point of, we get frustrated, we get angry. We go through a whole gambit of emotions. And when people are going through grief, we have to give them the space We have to get in a space to feel what they're feeling. We have to stop shutting each other down and saying, "Oh, don't feel like that." No, and it's okay. And it's that, a lot of times we go to that knee-jerk response because the truth is we are not equipped with the capacity to manage how to walk that person through whatever that feeling is we don't know what else to say. So we don't want them to experience it because we don't know how to handle them with it. So hopefully on tonight, by the time we're through, we will have shared some things that might be able to help us, to help someone walk through whatever they're experiencing in that moment, or just be more sensitive to it. Because again, the holidays are upon us and not everybody is happy. Christmas was my father's favorite time of year and he's not here. I could be upset every time. It changes moment by moment. One year I'm great and I want to decorate the whole universe. Another year I want to pull a sack of coal and just be like, no. I know one year I stopped shopping. I just gave myself, just no. I just gave myself money. Here, go get. I'm not saying it on no lines. I don't want no list. I don't care what you want. I don't want no nothing. Nope. I'm not buying nothing here. Take this money, go get what you want, knock yourself out, marry ho ho, and carry on. But I realized it was because I was actually missing my father. And I did not have it in me. So it pops up on us at different times. But again, I appreciate that comment, Dee. That is a very, very good point. And again, it just goes to show that grieving comes in all types of forms. Probably Sheila says certain parts of me need to be put to rest. So watch your voice, Pastor Sheila, because you be on this platform in 10 seconds, some gems. This is your platform. So you can come and go as you please. Because that part right there, certain parts of me need to be put to rest. Are we really also in that place to be honest with ourselves to say, oh, I'm sorry, Coach Passion. Okay, that was Coach P. Coach P, now you got to put the dash Coach P, otherwise I'm going to think it's Passion. But you could be up here too. We ain't playing with you either. Come on up here. But that's great. That's a true point. There are parts of us that need to be put to rest. There are parts of me that I realize that are not productive. They're not yielding results that I need. Some of my attitudes, some of my ways, some of the things that I allow in the space of my life, I need to put those to rest. Sometimes we extend ourselves too much. Sometimes we give too much. Those are all parts of it. And I had to realize, why am I doing that? It's something in me that I need to, it's exposing my inadequacies or, my shortcomings or my need to be accepted or, we got to get to the root. And it's just me. You got to get to the root of those things that you need to put to rest without someone telling you that, and that's going to be grievous too.
Yeah.
I had to learn how to start saying no in a greater way than I was before. And I would feel like if I said no, I don't want to say no because then this person, I didn't want to deal with what comes with saying no to someone and refusing them and the attitude that comes. And so, we start showing up for people in ways more than we should. And the truth is, we need to learn how to put those boundaries up and save ourselves the grief later. Because
I'm sorry.
We are accommodating someone at the cost of ourselves in something that brings us grief later on. Go ahead, Mom.
I wanted to not miss the opportunity to umbrella behind Deidre and what she said. The absence of not being or not having is painful. It is painful. Emptiness is very painful. It is grievous. I think You know, as she's saying, not having had the privilege of being a mother, that's painful because we were created to bear children, and not being able to do what we desire to do, that's you know, that's painful. You know, I have a situation where, you know, my life was based on absence, and you know, a lot of people don't really understand that. Like, how could you grieve over something that you've never had? You That is why you grieve, because you never had it, you never experienced that. My mother passed when I was uh, a baby, and I grew up with that pain on the inside, you know, that emptiness echoing, you know, and it was very painful. And I think until I was maybe 50 that I actually collapsed almost on Dawn's shoulder, cried for about close to an hour, you know, for that pain to be released, you know. And I grieved almost every day of my life, you know. um, Got even worse when I began having children, and my mother wasn't there, you know, to share that, you know. Yet when my daughters had their children, you know, I got to experience that. So I do understand what, you know, what she's saying. You know, not having is grievous.
So thank you for that. Thank you for that, Adma. And it is. Um, Sometimes we think, how can you miss something you never had? We've heard that saying before, but it's the fact of the not knowing, because I didn't have it. I don't know what it's like, because there's still a space for it.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
because I didn't have it,
Mhm.
doesn't take away my desire to want it, because there's a space for it.
Yeah.
Your desire dies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I called it. I actually was having this conversation because I wrote it down. You know how you write things down when God gives you certain thing, and literally what I wrote down was it's the loss of a desire never realized.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I mean, as soon as I saw her comment and hearing Pastor Mama Rosa speak, I'm like, that's what it is. It's something that there's a desire internal in us, and some of us, and most of us, are wired to that because we're wired for relationship. We're
Mm-hmm.
wired to be nurtured by your mother. So when that desire, that internal desire, is never realized, then the loss is felt in a deep way. And I mean, even to say, what Mama Rose was saying, like 50 years, at 50, you still feel that thing. And that's why people don't understand. Even when it was Pastor Hill when she was writing, I'm like, I totally understand, because even I talk to women that have had hysterectomy. And even if they've had children, just to know I can no longer do this, you have to go through, many have to go through a therapy sessions afterwards, because the desire is never realized. So that's a huge piece that I don't think that we ever get into either.
I'm just talking and I'm muted.
I was like,
Okay.
I was like, what is going on?
right. I see her mouth. I'm like,
No, it's not y'all, it's me. It's not y'all, it's me.
Oh.
So just reached a little reset right there. Welcome everybody to apparently my muted version tonight. Thursday night with me, your girl, Ladies on B. Hello, Bravo with Sheila Network. We want you to like, subscribe, and share. Tonight we are having a conversation about growing through grief. Not a counseling session, but a conversation. Because during this holiday season, there are some of us who are not going to be as happy as we would suppose. Some of us are smiling through our grief. Some of us are just showing up in spaces because we don't know what else to do. And we don't want anyone to know that we are really grieving and hurting inside. So we want to have this conversation and not so much focus on the grief, but we want to focus on the growth. because there is space for us to grow even while we are grieving. Doesn't mean that we are ignoring that we have lost something. But what it means is that we are acknowledging that we are learning a new normal and we are developing something else. We are adding on to the life or to the experience, because loss, grief is not just because of loss of life. Grief is loss of anything that meant something to you. Excuse me, some of us are grieving people, places, and things. Some of us are grieving places in time that we may never be able to get back to or see again. And we have to find a way to grow through that so that we can move forward, because life is not going to stop for anyone. Coach Pache says, my dad was deleted the day I was born, but I make the choice every year not to be consumed by it. And that's a true fact. She's saying her father passed the day that she was born. Mm-hmm. So again, another missed moment, another missed opportunity, but there's still space. Mm-hmm. There's still a space for her dad. There's still a space for Reverend Hill's children within their lives. But again, the growth part is making the choice. Right. Making the choice to either sit in it or making the choice to work through it. Notice I didn't say get over it. Right. Because we're not getting over anything, because getting over something does not address the issue at hand. We have to learn how to work through things and know. And I know when we hear this often, well, it's not that easy, or it's not easy. No, what is?
Right.
Life is easy.
Correct.
That part.
So when people say like, but it's not that easy. Well,
it's not.
Neither is this.
Yeah.
Show me what was easy so I can do it 69 times, in a row. Because I don't know anything. It's not easy. But then we turn around and say anything worth having is worth fighting for, right? So my growth, my transition through this is worth fighting for. So it's worth the work for me to get out of this space. It doesn't mean that I'm not honoring the memories of things, but it means that I can't stay here because I've already lost something. I can't lose me and something. One of us still has the opportunity to live.
And then you're losing more time.
Yeah.
In the process. I love what Lady Risha said when she said you have to enter the process. I'm like, that is the place. If you won't even enter the process, you really, really stuck. And a lot of people find themselves there. One of the things I just want to say, and I know you got to read comments, is that what I found is that it's the space of love. Grief meant that you love something, and then when that is lost, where does that love go? I had to ask myself that question after my divorce. I did not stop loving my ex-husband, but where now? Where's the new normal for the love I had in that marriage?
Right.
And it was crazy to even fathom, but I had to admit to myself that there was still love there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And we don't like to always admit that there's still love there. Now, what do we do with this love that has no direction?
Right.
Because it's going to flow up and show up somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. But that's growth. We have to grow through it. The key word here in this growing through grief is transition. Because you're transitioning, and it's almost bipolar, if you will, because you're transitioning into the loss of something, and then you have to transition into the newness of something, and it's one behind the other. But like Risha said, you have to enter the process. If you keep standing on the corner and on the curb, you're never going to get no better. You're just going to end up with the same thing that's on that corner and that curb, and it'd be the definition of insanity, which is doing the same thing, expecting a different result. Sis, bruh, you got to step off the curb. You got to cross the traffic. You know, you got to get to the other side. Coach Pache says, your health village helps you. It's the passing through that gets you to the other side. Exactly. Exactly. But you have to be willing. And I this is good. But you know, some people don't, I find that we use, and this is just the flip side. I'm not saying it to be toxic, but it's a reality because, you know, we have real talk and real conversation here. So like, subscribe, and share. And for those of you who are in the silent sections, come on down to the comment section. Please say hello. Let us know that you're there so that we can reach out and we can say something. We just want to say hi to you. That's all. We just want to say hello. We want to welcome you properly. But some of us, we get stuck in our grief and in our losses because we allow it to become who we are. And if we let go of the grief, if we let go of the pity party, if we let go of the sorrow, we would have no story to tell.
Wow.
Because that's the thing that enables us to go from place to place to place to place, never growing, never staying in one place long enough to finish the process. But we get to the end of the point of where it's to the point where people are expecting now. People have been compassionate with you. They have been sympathetic with you. You know, they've walked us through this, and it gets to the point where now we run out of gas in that grief space. You know, we're running out of grace a little bit in that grief space. But because it's the only story we have to tell, we then will decide, you know, that now we're going to switch. Because I can't use this story over here anymore. I can't use this compassion over here anymore. You know, so now I got to switch, you know, and go tell my story over here, because over here they haven't heard it before. So over here they'll be open, you know, with open hearts and open arms, and oh, I'm sorry. And so that process starts all over again. We have to stop using our grief for those who may. And again, I'm not being toxic, but it's a harsh reality.
But the thing also is that you owe yourself to live.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. We got a super chat. I'm sorry. The world stops for a super chat up in the house. From Coach Pache, it's a walk only you can take. This is one of those, my favorite sayings that Pastor Sheila says, although this is Coach Pache. Walk it out in shoe leather, my God. Situation, by his grace, we get there. Yes, ma'am. It's that shoe leather comment that kills me every time. Like, mighty God. Go ahead, Mom. I'm sorry. We had to make sure that we pause for our...
No. I was just saying, you know, we owe it to ourselves. We've been given the gift of life, and we know that in this life we're going to go through ups and downs. We fall down, we get up. You know, we get up, we fall down. You know, the tree that was, forgot the tree that was, it bent. It didn't break. It bent and snapped back. It bent and it snapped back because we have the ability to snap back. But some of us, like you said, you know, let me just keep this perpetuation going, you know, the sad story. Because if we don't hear a sad comment, we don't have, then we feel like we don't have anything at all to, you know, anything at all.
Nothing to contribute.
That's just really so sad, because there's another side of life. I grieved my mother almost every day of my life, but I still had children. I still got married. I still went to school. I still, it's a part of life. You know, you have to come through to the other side. Do I still grieve my mother? Yes, I do, but not as much as I did, before that day. I used to cry myself to sleep. I don't do that anymore, but I still have that a measure of pain, that, so you've got to get it to the point where you can still function. Otherwise, you're just a very selfish individual.
Well, and I have to correct myself. That was my auntie Bravo, Pastor Sheila. That's mother and daughter team. Coach Pache and Pastor Sheila, mother and daughter, like me and Mama Rosa. Um, they be tripping me up in the comment section sometimes. So Coach Pache is gonna put Coach P when she's talking, so I know. But that was her, and I should have known that because she talked about the shoe leather. Every time she says that, that gets me so right. Every single time. Every single time. And before I go on in comments, I'm going to bring up, we know her, we love her. She is our sister. She is Dr. Andy Brown is in the house. Hey sis, how are you tonight?
Good evening, ladies. How are you doing?
We are
Good.
Good. I just figured I'd jump in for a few seconds.
sure. Thank you for joining. We're glad
Thank you
to
for
see.
having me.
Of course, all the time. So I want to read a little bit. Yeah, that walk it out in shoe leather. Yeah. It's listen, that'll get you right every time. Get you right, good and right. Okay. That's what that does. And for those of you who don't know, I am dressed to the nines tonight because we just felt like it. That's why. Okay. But
We underdressed.
We just felt like she's dressed like that, but we felt like.
I told y'all, listen, I remember my Grace Plus Grace season. Okay, listen.
But never mind the fact that it's my birthday month. Hers was last month, and she got
But
on
it's,
the ground.
but it's my birthday season. Yes, me and mom we hit milestones at the same time. We are 25 years apart. And I know she don't mind because I put it all over social media that she hit 80 last week on December 7th. Okay, so listen. I went for 55 tiara for you, mommy. Okay, it's 55, but I'm just saying we was in the it's the beginning of the show, so don't mind, but mind all of this here.
Me and Mama Rosa is like birthday twins because I'm the 6th and she the 7th. So
That's right.
Oh, look at that. We twins.
We had December birthdays all in the house. We had November birthdays. It's just our season. We are just celebrating. Okay, so I want to ask you guys to like, subscribe, and share. Invite someone into this conversation on tonight. We're talking about growing through grief, and we really want to focus on the growth part. When we opened up, was mentioning how we have all experienced grief. We are still experiencing grief. Some of us are grieving people, places, and things. It's not just the loss of life. It is any loss that was hard for any substantial loss that hit us, any loss that you've experienced. But we don't have to stay stuck. We don't have to stay in a sad state. You can live, and it's okay to do so. And you have to tell yourself you have a right to live. And I'm going to share a few things in a moment, but I do want to read something that I had prepared a little bit for this conversation, just so that we have a little more context to the conversation. So I want to share this, that grief is something that we all have in common, though we've experienced it in different ways. Now, this story is funny to me, and my sister might kill me later, but that's okay. I'm ready for it. I remember when my dad died, and he's been gone, I realize now, 18 years now. I remember when my dad died, my sister started talking really loud. Like everything she said was loud. It didn't matter every day. And it just wasn't the day we found out he passed, like in that moment. It was literally from the phone call. From that moment on, it's like, Desi, okay, I'm good. It's like, well, okay. Desi, I want some juice. Everything. It was like, what in the world? What is happening? And it took me a minute to realize. We were in my car and we were going somewhere, and I had to say that. I said, Des, I need you. I said, do you realize? I was like, huh? I said, you yelling. She's like, I am? I'm like, yeah. And you've been yelling for like 6 weeks now. Like, when it happened? She's like, I don't feel like I'm yelling. I was like, but you are.
Yelling.
And the look on my face let her know, like, oh, she had no idea. She had no idea she was yelling. But again, and I mean every day, she would talk really, really loud. And it took me a minute to realize again that that was a part of how she was processing the grief of the loss of our father. It, for whatever reason, was showing up and exiting with her with volume. And for me, when I experience loss of any kind, I tend to go numb. I do the opposite. I will not really withdraw, but I will really just be numb, like not allowing myself to some degree to feel, because for me, that is how I protect myself until I can process what's really happened. So we're at two totally different sides of the spectrum. Here she is being like loud, like football mom loud. And here I am being like librarian quiet, you know. So it was really funny. Anybody who was looking at us from the outside, and you know, and our father, we have the same mom and dad. They're like, you know, you sure y'all grieving the same person? Because y'all like night and day. Like, what's happening? But for me, again, I realized that I go numb into survival mode, and it's how I protect myself and preserve my emotions so that I can process what has happened. I tend to go to the mindset of there's nothing I can do about it. So why cry? Why react? No matter how I respond, it's not going to change anything. And while I realize that this is not healthy at all, but it's how I'm able to function after the loss without the loss of the thing taking control of my life. And again, each one of us is missing someone from our table and from our lives and from our physical space that still occupy a space that's in our hearts, whether it's the loss that happened yesterday or today or 6 years ago, again, or 18 years ago, like my dad. But we all go through a process of how we are experiencing this grief situation, this loss, and we have to give each other the space to do so. Like, I wasn't mad at her because she started speaking loud. You know, I think she got a little upset with me at one point, thinking like I have no feelings. And I'm like, it's not that I don't have any feelings. I just don't know how to express what I'm feeling right now. So I have to go numb so that I'm not all over the place, you know, because I know that I still got to get up from here. I still got to function. You know, I still have to move. I still have to survive. Me having a fit is not going to change anything of this situation. You know, and I know that some of us may operate that same way. But again, I know that that is not a healthy way. It took me a long time to realize that it's okay to have the outburst if you have to have it. Give yourself that moment and that space. Don't worry about what it looks like, what it feels like, how it sounds like, but give yourself that opportunity, because in that you are growing through what you're releasing. You're allowing it to happen. You're processing an emotion. You're experiencing it, and you are recognizing it for what it is. You know, you won't know what to do until you get in it. You know, like Risha said, you won't know what to do. And when we define grief, just by definition, grief is deep sorrow, especially caused by loss or death, anguish experienced after significant loss. It's what happens after you lose something. But even after the loss, there's still life. There's still life that goes on after the after. So we can't get stuck in what we've lost. We have to get to that other after. So before I go further, let me see. Okay, I just want to read this too, and then we're going to jump back into the conversation. If that's okay with you, ladies. I hope you guys are enjoying this conversation. We're talking about growing through grief, because also some of us may not even understand what grief is or what it looks like. You may have friends that are still grieving things. You know, listen, my cat died. My cat Cassio, he died. We've been here 4 years, maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Listen, there are times when I still come in my house, or I'm in the supermarket and I be going like, oh, I gotta get cat food. Or I gotta cat, you know, and I'm like, Dad, no, I don't. I'm like, don't, the cat ain't here. You know, I have to tell myself, you know, it would be like, you crying over a cat? Yes, because I love, you know, there was love there, you know, and that was a major loss to my heart, you know, but I had to start reminding myself, like, the cat's not here, you know. We have to go through the process of reminding ourselves that while that person is not here, or that thing is no longer here, we have to find a way to push through to get to the other side. People may not have known that I was really grieving the loss because I looked like I was fine. So sometimes the very person sitting next to you may be grieving something that we don't even know. So from what I've studied, there are 5 stages of grief, which the first one is denial, which is a protective response to an overwhelming life event where the person may feel numb or shocked. So I guess I was in a season of denial maybe when my dad passed. Again, the first is denial, a protective response to an overwhelming life event where the person may feel numb or shocked. The second is anger, a natural response that can be directed at oneself, family, doctors, God, or even the person or thing that has been lost. The third is bargaining. A person may try to negotiate or make compromises or question their spirituality or faith. And that happens a lot when we lose a person, a loved one, we lose items and things. We start to question our spirituality. We start to question God. Why do I need to, why believe? Why keep believing if this is going to happen? Well, my belief is not based on what happens. My belief is based on what I believe, you know, and that's what we have to remember. But that bargaining is that we feel like we can negotiate. God, if you do this, if you give that back, if you send this person back, I'll do. No, that's a part of grieving. Depression and sadness. A person may feel deep sadness as they realize the loss is permanent. Depression and sadness. I think this is another major key. A person may feel deep sadness as they realize, coming to that realization that the loss, whatever it is permanent. Some of us call that closure. Or a part of closure is the realization, like, this is done. This is like, there's no, you know, there's no coming back. There's nothing else there. These stages, 5 is acceptance. The person has adjusted to the loss and incorporated it into their life. Again, acceptance, the person has adjusted to the loss and incorporated it into their life. And I think this is where that new normal that we were talking about before, that's where this new normal begins, is when we accept the fact that we can't go back. You know, it's not going back. We have to move forward. And now life has to go on differently. These stages are applicable within the loss, again, of a person, a place, a thing, relationships, and recovery from these things can take from 1 month to 1 year, according to what I've read and studied. And this statistics or information I found on helpguide.org and overcomewithus.com. Also psychiatry.org. So these are some resources that you can also look up and look into to see and understand what this process of grieving and growth, because we want to make sure we're doing both. We don't want to just get stuck with the grief. We want to grow from it. we want to move forward from it. We don't want to act like it didn't happen, but we want to make sure that we are pressing forward with it. Excuse me. And in the growth part, we have to understand that grief it affects people in different ways. It shows up in our lives differently. Grief can can affect your body with appetite changes, weight gain or weight loss, sleep patterns, people's ability to be present and engaged. It can be harder at night. They said due to the decreased brain activity, social isolation, and fatigue, the night has less distractions, is a much quieter time where the brain refocuses on the feelings of grief. And this information is found at carespace.health. Again, and Overcome With Us. These are some of the things that happen. It's why people struggle at night a lot of times when we're going through grief, when you can't sleep. Sometimes it's because, again, it's less distractions. It's when your mind and your body is starting to relax, and we're putting ourselves in a space where now there's nothing else in the way to distract us or to block us from focusing on our feelings. Let's see. We got a comment. Bravo. Sheila says you may go through more than one stage at a time. Yes, ma'am. Which is a total different emotion. It's important to identify where you are in your grief. Yes, ma'am. And again, Pastor Sheila is a licensed clinician as well as a counselor. So she is speaking from all facets, and this is true. You may go through, so don't box yourself in or don't feel confused because you're feeling a whole bunch of things at the same time. You might, and it's okay. However you're going through it, it's okay. You're going through it, right. And that's the important thing. That you're going to more than one thing at a time. Which, again, as she said, which is a totally different emotion. Mm-hmm. I can imagine. All those things that you're going through at the same time is now creating a whole different dynamic. It's creating something else that you weren't expecting in all of this. And it's important to identify where you are in your grief, right? We have to own it. We can't get from it if we're not owning the space that we're in. In a place where I'm learning to once again own where I'm at and say, you know what? I'm hurt. Mm-hmm. There's a release that comes when we release ourselves of the guilt of saying, I'm angry. Mm-hmm. I'm upset. I'm frustrated. I don't like this. When I recently admitted that something hurt me, that I was hurt, I instantly started feeling better. I had a physical pain in my body and couldn't understand where this pain was coming from. And it wasn't until I released the fact and started owning up to the fact that I'm hurt. This what I experienced, it hurts. And it hurt me. And once I cried, I promise you after that, and I was grieving something. I was grieving something that was on me, and I was trying to do the dawn thing and not let it bother me and not let it get to me and not let it disturb me. I was like, nope. And because we know how to, we press forward and that. And it was a space where, again, God is my compass. He's like, nope, you got to, as Pastor Sheila says, sit in it. Yeah, I was like, I said, I'm gonna sit on the edge of it. I ain't gonna sit in it. I'm gonna sit on the edge because you're gonna make me sit. So I'm sitting on the edge. But it got to the point, so okay, keep sitting on the edge. Keep sitting on the edge.
Right, then delay in the healing.
You have got to enter the process. And when I think about just this, when you talk about the steps of grieving, and it cycles, while you can experience.
I'm sorry, hold on. We got a super chat. Hold on, I'm sorry. And Pastor Shield says it's okay to not be okay. Blessings to the panel and the chat. Thank you for the super chat. We got to recognize the super chats, y'all. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Is Pastor Sheila?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so when you can go through more than one stage at the same time, and you also cycle. A lot of times you get to when you progress to the bargaining part, and you realize that bargaining is not going to work, it sends you back to anger.
Mm-hmm.
And so it looks like what we call in medicine a negative feedback system,
Mm-hmm.
or negative feedback cycle, where one negative thing begets another one. But each time in the process, each length in those areas the time gets less. So you don't stay angry as long when you cycle back.
That's
So
good.
because you know what the steps look like, and so it's easy for you to transition through the process. And when I say easy, not that the pain or the emotions aren't there, but you can recognize and realize things. And so the like I said, the process cycles itself. The problem we get into sometimes, like we said earlier, is when we mark time, when we stop. And you can't mark time. Time is a continuum that needs to be experienced. The world says time heals all wounds, but it doesn't. It puts space in between the pain and you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't allow time to do what time does, and time is a gift. When you don't allow time to do what time does, you get stuck. And so then that's when you find people like you talked about earlier, when they have these they want to bemoan the point because now it becomes who they are because they've been in it so long that that's all that they know. And so then it's just a pity party. The problem with pity parties are then you become pitiful, full of pity.
Come on.
That's all that you have. That's all that you'll exude.
Mm-hmm.
So again, you have to not just enter in the process, but trust it.
Yeah.
And have people around you who can help you navigate the waters. And a lot of times it's not the words that we say that help people in that transition. It's the presence of the person. It's the ministry of presence that helps somebody. I know I'm not alone. I can see you. We don't have to have conversation. We don't have to talk about it because maybe it's too painful for you. But I want you to know I'm here. Do you need a glass of water? If we're gonna sit and watch TV together, so you don't have to have that alone time as much, so your mind doesn't cycle. I can say for me personally, holidays are horrible for me, or have been. Let me take that back. This is the first year in probably since 2007 I've actually enjoyed the holiday. Now, mind you, I did all the things, put lights on the house for Christmas, put up Christmas trees, but that was all a mask because I needed to make it look like I was okay. So this year I did nothing because I had to sit in whatever this thing was. So to give you context, in 1 year, we buried my grandmother December 21st. My favorite uncle, and my two favorite uncles, one died Valentine's Day. And then the next one, we buried him on Good Friday. So all of my holidays, all back to back. And then my dad died January 8th, 30 years ago. So so starting from November all the way to April is a rough season for me. And so, but what helped me transition through all of that, even now, is having people who didn't try to make me feel like I was crazy for still feeling a certain kind of way after the fact, and gave me space to have a voice when I felt like speaking.
Yeah. Yeah. When you felt like speaking.
When I felt like speaking.
I love that part about the speaking, because one thing that I don't think that we understand is how much our words matter when we're going into, especially entering through the process. If we can't speak to what you're actually feeling, because a lot of time we can't identify it, but if we can say, I'm hurt. And like you, the Bible tells us confession is good for the soul. It's a cleansing almost. And it's something psychological in us that when you say it and you can hear it yourself, it does something to your brain to release. So when you said, I'm hurt, and then you got the release from it, it's because you can hear, your body can let go of what was already inside, like almost strangling you. You know what I mean? It has a hold on you. So when you say it and you hear it, now I've released that thing, and my whole body can relax because I was tense.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So,
it definitely made a difference. Yeah.
yeah.
It's giving it a name. You have to
Yeah,
call a
you
thing
have
a
to
thing.
you have to identify it, and we don't want to identify.
Yeah.
And you know, we're so good, and us as believers, we're so
Mm.
good to be like, you're gonna be okay, and don't say that, or you can't feel that way. But God gave us feelings to feel. We just
Right.
have to identify the feeling, like we
Mhm.
say, sit in it, and then for me, I go, okay, God, this is what it is. I'm mad, I'm angry, I'm hurt. That's what it is. I'm going to confess that thing. I know what it feels like so that when I go to help somebody else, I have empathy. But now
Mm-hmm.
it's like you help me walk through it. Now I'm entering into my own process. But we are
Yeah.
so quick to tell people not to feel.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, we've been taught that. We've been
We've been
Right.
taught
told
that,
not
and
to feel.
we
Not
perpetuate the madness by, I'm really not hurting, but I'm bleeding. You can see that I'm bleeding,
Mm.
So if I'm bleeding, that means that there's a cut, there's an injury. So unless
Right.
I'm just not human, with no feelings at all, I'm not hurting, but it is. I went through um uh well, nervous breakdown. I had like three emotional breakdowns, I put it that way, from being hurt. And you've got to grab a hold to something, as Risha was saying, as you're going through that process, you got to get in that, you got to confront that thing. You can't
Mhm.
just allow it to run, haywire in your life. You've got to confront it. Yes, I'm hurt. This is what, and then we have to accept the part that we played
Oh, that's
in
good.
that, in
oh
being
yeah.
in that. I was talking to someone today, talking to a pastor today, and we were talking about that. And I said, do you know, when you get to that place where you can see why you got into the situation that you're in, do you know there's nothing else to even look at? There's nothing else to look at. I'm looking at, oh, I got in this situation because, and my focus is now on me. It's no longer, I want to hurt this other person or whatever, because I need to deal with me and pray that that other person is dealing, with themselves. And once we do that, that alleviates, you're carrying the weight of somebody else. You're wondering and worrying and being concerned and all this other stuff, all these other emotions and things. And when you get to that place, when you realize you are responsible, we are responsible for ourselves. I'm responsible for my yes. I'm responsible for, for my submission, and I'm responsible to now, after my divorce from Dawn's dad, first question I asked God was, what was wrong with me? Why did I do this? Why did I do this? This was so important to me because I wanted to know what was in me, and not, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to do this again, because not only I hurt myself, but you hurt that other person too, and then you have kids, and everybody is just hurt. And so now, you need to look at you in this. And when you look at you in this, and then that's where the process begins, where you begin to heal. And it is a daily, I don't know how long it took me to heal from the breakdown, the breakdowns, because one was more traumatic than the other. And I don't know how long it took me, a good 6 7 years, but I do know at the end of it, I said, I'll never go through that again. I'll never go through that again, because I realized, what my capacity was. I realized, and you just have to accept that. I think the drug rehab, they use this thing, Lord help me, the serenity prayer.
Surrender
Lord
prayer.
help me, and I can't remember it, verbatim, but
Like,
that was my
cannot.
go-to. I had it on my refrigerator. And every morning I looked at that, poem or that saying, and it got me through,
Yeah.
and everybody has a limit, yet we have to know your limit, and you just have to be willing to, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, just be willing to accept. That's the good thing, and I just have to say this, that's the good thing about being in relationship, with the Lord, is that we can go to him with anything. It doesn't even matter what it is, everything.
Right. You know, Dr. ND, I want you to jump in. You've been real quiet. Want to welcome Bishop Coach Michael Black Men Don't Cheat Claiborne. Welcome to the room tonight. He has been an amazing staple of Thursday nights all month long. You know, you are welcome to pop on up here and hop in this conversation if you want to on tonight. Thank you for tuning in. Again, it's okay to not be okay. Thank you, ladies, for all your shares and what you have lent to this conversation has been amazing. Guys, I hope you're enjoying it. Like, subscribe, and share. We are talking about growing through grief, and we want to focus on the growth. But before we get to the growth, we got to get through the grief and understanding why we're there and if we're stuck. And I just want to say, because everyone has shared amazing things, and as Pastor Sheila said, it is okay to not be okay. Now, please understand, no one is saying that you said that's right. Black men don't cheat.
We're grieving.
Oh, but the inner, well, that's another. We're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about it later. But it's okay to not be okay. And please understand, no one is discounting your grief process, whatever that process is. But there has to be progress in your process. We cannot stay stuck. Again, we cannot use the grievous situations that life brings us as an excuse to stay in a position. You know, we've got to get up from here. You owe the world so much more of you than showing up in pieces. You know, and it is a slow walk, but we got to put the one foot in front of the other. You know, we have to start taking those steps. So come on, Dr. ND, lend us some insight on this conversation tonight.
Hey, I've been listening, and it's funny that we talk about grief because one of the things I've come to do when it in it is that I've actually had to teach my class um, how to acknowledge and identify grief as best as they could because grief looks very different on individuals. And though you mentioned the 5 stages of grief, which I taught from, sometimes they say there's about 10 to 12 of them,
Yeah.
depending on exactly where you're coming from. And one of the things I know as a culture, we don't do very well with grief or grieving because from a historical perspective, we were told that no matter what we were going through, we had to show up the next day in full gear, ready to work, ready to take care of our responsibilities, ready to fulfill the assignments and commitments that we've had to fulfill. And even now, as we've evolved, there are still some things that we just don't address and we don't coincide with. We don't do a good job of grieving and we don't handle grief at all. We just go through the motions. What I've learned in my own process is that I did not realize that I had not grieved um, for years. I didn't grieve. In 1993, I lost about between 1993 and 1995. I lost five. I lost five prominent key members of my family back to back. I was going through. I was not in a happy and successful marriage. I was raising 3 kids. I had to get up and go to work. I still had a husband that I actually really didn't like. but we were still in the same household. And let's fast forward that there was still stuff that I did not know, as I had lived my life so that I had never grieved, and did not realize that it was affecting other areas of my life. And how I realized that I was grief stricken was probably last year, maybe 2 years ago. I just had an emotional meltdown. With everything that I do, all the responsibilities I had, I just lost it. And I did not realize that I had not grieved some things. And in the process, God started to show me, you know, that part of these things we don't grieve. I didn't grieve the end of my marriage. I didn't grieve the deaths that I had experienced in my mid 20s. I did not grieve the loss of jobs. I did not grieve the divorce of my ex-husband. I did not grieve the realities of relationships that I had with my parents. There was a lot of stuff that I had not grieved, and it was amazing to see how we just go about life. And now that we're in a culture where everything is, we got trauma coaches. Everybody wants to be a coach. Everybody got a license to be a coach. Everybody a coach, and don't nobody know how to spell coach. But that is a conversation for another time. Everybody wants to be a coach, and I think that that's something that we live in a time where we need to be real cognizant of when we saying coach, and helping someone grieve and understanding what grief is. And as God walked me through it and helped me navigate it, and then gave it to me as part of my teaching as far as my students is concerned, and even in my ministry, asking people, hey, we go from relationship to relationship. Did we grieve the last relationship that we had? And then we don't realize that we've had not grieved. And I think that it's important that we, as you said, one of the things you said was key, is that we require time to process. And we don't do a good job of processing anything that causes some level of trauma. We just want to get in, we want to do the, maybe lay the blame, maybe not take accountability, and we just want to move on. Or we want to let everybody know, and we want everybody to be on our side, but no one to tell us what role we may have played, or what position that we sat in the midst of it. We don't identify that shock causes us to go into a place of trauma that sometimes we can't get out of. And one of the things I've learned is that sometimes people are grieving and don't even know that they have grieving. They have just gone on and lived lives and don't realize that they have navigated and they've affected relationships, especially those intimate relationships, relationships that they're trying to build. They're women, with single women I've kind of mentored and counseled, and they didn't grieve the last relationship or the last few relationships. And then they go into this new relationship with these sunglasses, rose colored sunglasses on, and the relationship doesn't work out well because they are taking trauma. They're carrying their trauma with them and wearing it as this part of their garments. So I think that this is something that we definitely need to talk about. And also knowing that grief causes depression. And sometimes, depression is big. We don't talk of this. How can I say this? It's all of those things. It causes depression. Trauma affects us in multiple ways. It's really hazardous to our health, our physical, our emotional, and even our spiritual health. And sometimes we may look like we got it together because we don't want to tell somebody that today I'm not having a good day. And I live by that theory. It's okay not to be okay. I tell people, with all the hats that I wear today, I don't feel like talking. I don't feel like praying for you. I don't feel like prophets. I don't feel like doing any of those things today. And I have friends who I think I've kind of cultivated them to know, and he was like, well, I've not heard from you. I don't necessarily feel like talking. It's not that I'm in a bad space. I just need a minute because I want to process some things that are happening around me. And sometimes I know the church is so deep. They don't understand when you get silent. Oh, she going through. It's not even about warfare. It's just sometimes I want to reassess some things, and I want to figure out the trajectory of where I'm going. because right now I'm at the crossroads of my life, and the crossroads of my life doesn't require me to have a lot of conversation. It requires me to show up for myself. It requires me to be mature in the decision. It requires me to take some level of accountability. It requires me to not have a conversation and try to explain to someone who may not be in a position to understand my circumstances and expect them to get an answer. And now I got to deal with that too, of leaving a space worse than I went into because I was expecting you to give me something you wasn't capable of giving me because you did not understand, nor were you able to listen and hear what my issue was. So I think that sometimes we have to be able to tell people in that moment, I just need 15 seconds so I can figure this out, or at least try to get some bullet points so I can then articulate what I'm feeling right now. And that just because I have a moment and I'm grieving something, my world is not coming to an end. I have to reevaluate, how do I move on? And it's not just death. I think that we don't take accountability that grievance comes with relationships of people that we still have to interact with, that we still have to engage in, we still have to be accountable to. Grieving the fact that there's a girlfriend or a friend that you've had for years and now that has shifted. How do I now process that? Because I've gone to another space, there where they are, and we are not on the same trajectory anymore. And we don't grieve that, but we definitely do a good job of trying to replace it. And that's where we become where it becomes a problem, because I didn't grieve why the relationship went left. I didn't grieve the fact that maybe I've outgrown that. Maybe I just put that person in a place and gave them position that they weren't qualified for, and now that it comes to it, they no longer, not only were they not they weren't qualified for, I did a disservice to them, and now I'm grieving the fact that it didn't work.
No, that's good. That's good. You said a mouthful and then some. And you're so very right. You know, we don't always take proper time to heal and grieve, because we can accept that something has happened. And depending on what it is we're grieving, um, we can accept that something has happened, but sometimes it's hard for us to accept our part in what happened, which prolongs our process of recovery. It prolongs our process of growing through whatever the loss is, and that's when we get back to that point of sitting in it. We have to learn how to sit in and be accountable for what we may or may not have added to a situation that causes grief in someone's life. Grief comes in many different forms and stages. Sometimes we bring grief into our own lives. There's that saying that hurting people hurt people, hurting people hurt people. Because you're grieving, sometimes that's the only thing that we know how to serve other people is grief, because that's what is on our plate. And this is why it's important for us to learn how to grow through whatever it is that we're going through. Grow through it. Make it count for something. Make it count for something other than the fact that I've been sitting in this for so long, because life is going to happen along the way. And when we don't deal with the first thing, the other things that come along in life, the disappointments and the hurts, we add that on, we pile it on and add it on to our grief, the initial grief that we're carrying, and then we label it as this cycle of things that have happened in my life. And, because this happened and then that happened and then that happened and that happened, but you didn't deal with the first thing that happened. So you didn't know how to handle the second thing that happened. So by the time the third thing that happened, you have totally misidentified what is going on. And it's just the fact that life is happening. We all go through things. Everybody's story is different, but it's just as heavy, and we have to stop comparing our wounds. A lot of times we want to be the only one that's hurting in the room, because they say the squeaky wheel gets the oil, We got to stop being the squeaky wheel. How about we want all the wheels to work properly so that we can get on. We can get on with life. We can move forward. But our life can't exist in the space of being stuck. And again, no one is discrediting anyone's grieving process, no matter what it is that you are grieving. You cannot, I recently have said, I cannot rush a person's process, nor can I push a person's progress. I can't rush you through your process, and I cannot push you to your progress. I got to let you do what you got to do in the way that you need to do it when it comes to handling grief, when it comes to handling disappointments, when it comes to handling life. We as women, sometimes we are so quick to want to fix everything because that's our nature. And we want to make sure everyone is well. But I'm learning how to take my hands off of things and just let it be what it is, you know. And as painful as it is sometimes to separate, it's what you have to do. And I'm learning how to save myself, because I can't risk me to save you. You know, I can't allow the grief, you know, because that would be grievous. That I lose. Some of us are not trying to get out of, again, the grief space that we're in. So why am I going to lose myself trying to save you from a space that you've made your home? I gotta let you sit in it, you know, and I gotta learn how to sit in it. And that's the thing that I'm learning how to do, you know. And for me, it's grievous to my heart, but I'm growing. You know, I'm learning what that looks like. I want to read some comments. You know, this is a great conversation. I'm glad we're having it. And again, this conversation is so that as we're going through this holiday season, and not just the holiday season, but as we go through life, let's just not assign it the space of the holidays, although it seems to be more dominant at the holidays, again, because everybody is missing somebody at the table that they wish that was still there. You know, but this is something that we need to keep in mind all year round, so that we know how to help one another through these moments. We know how to identify when somebody may be having a moment. You know, how do I respond? How do I identify it? I need to start paying more attention. What is that looking like for my brother, my sister, my friend, my husband, my wife? You know, so that we can be more sensitive about it. Pastor Sheila says, this is a powerful conversation. It took me so long to accept my husband was gone forever. And I would have to every year share with my daughter the joy of her life as well as the death anniversary. That is so heavy. And again, Pastor Sheila, for those of you who don't know, Pastor Sheila is Coach Pache's mom, who earlier made the comment and mentioned about how her father passed away on the day she was born. You know, so the two of them have a shared traumatic experience. I'm going to say, in a sense, it is a not a negative, in a sense, trauma bond, but they are bonding through the traumatic experience that they've had. You know, they suffered through it on two different sides. Suffered the loss, one having lost her husband, the other one never getting to even embrace her father. But yet it's a space where they're able to bond. And Pastor Sheila, being the mom, having to create a new normal for her daughter while trying to digest and create a new normal for herself. You know, and I think that is so commendable. You know, we all have a story, and that's really, really heavy, because I feel like it's the loss on two sides that she's managing, you know, the loss of her husband and the loss of her child's father. You know, how many of us have to explain to our children, you know, the loss of a parent that they never got to know, you know, as well as deal with the loss of that person in your life. So, you know, she said she had to have every year to share with my daughter the joy of her life, as well as, that's a heavy weight to balance and to manage. You know, that to me is one of those beauty for ashes moments, and it takes grace It takes really, for God to walk us through moments like those. Pastor Hill, I want to sit in that one for a minute. I got to, because that is good. It's good. We have to think, and sometimes we think we're the only ones, and our story is the worst story. No, your story is just yours. And I say that to say, because even while we're grieving and while we're going through things, we're all missing something. But we make choices to love one another through things. We make choices to still show up for one another. We make choices, even in our lack.
Mhm.
Even in what the midst we're going through, we make the choice to help one another grow through the spaces that we are still yet dealing with. Bishop Claiborne says everyone grieves differently. They need to have people around them that are patient, as well as have people around them that won't leave them there. Exactly. We have to be careful of our village. You know, you don't be mad at the people that don't want to leave you in your grief. We have to be willing. The caveat to that is you have to be willing to let the people assigned to your life help you get unstuck. You have to give them the space to exercise that patience with you, that grace with you, to lift you up. But if you don't, that's another thing that grieves everybody. No one wants to see you continuing going through. People want to see us, everyone get to their better. Again, no one's rushing you, but we do have to be patient and make sure that we are
And
being those type of people around people that would do that.
I
It also says, if you're not careful, grief will take you into a black hole called depression. Absolutely. It sure will. It sure will. Uh, Auntie Brava says, that will preach, niece. Let all the wheels get the oil. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. The squeaky one does it. Listen, we all got to. We all have to do it. We all got to get through this. We got to get through this thing called life together. She also said,
go
not
ahead. I
not
wanted to just say something.
okay, not past. He was, yes, not past. He was deleted. There is a difference. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that. Um, yes, if you understand the verbiage that is being used, he did not pass. He was deleted, and there is an absolute difference. Something was he was taken away from them, so that is different. From what someone typically passing would be like. So yes, thank you for correcting and bringing that out. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. Who was trying to speak? Was it you, Mom?
Thanks, Dr. Indy.
No, I just kind of wanted to say something in regards to one of the last things that you said. I think one of the key things that, and I think this will be it for me for tonight because I'm not feeling too hot. I think one of the key things that is important that I've learned and I've had to teach others is that there is an art to listening. There's an art to listening, and then there's an art to hearing. And I think that when we are trying to be that for someone, there are some things that I think that are vital for us to know because it's like the ministry presence of just being there and not saying anything. And one of the key things that I think that is important again, and we go back to, it's okay not to be okay. But I think in for those who are grieving, is that there has to be a point of the ones of us who we are as we're helping them, accepting the realities that this may take a little time. And sometimes we want people to be okay right away, and that is not the case in point. Um, um, and we need to be able to understand because we want people to move or we want them to be okay tomorrow. And that might not be the case. That may take some time, and we have to be able to listen and understand what that looks like. And if we're not prepared to invest the time, then leave the person alone
Oh, that's good. That's good.
because because it is different and that addressing your own anger and your own frustration when you are going through a grieving with someone else, addressing your frustrations in that and not forcing that on them because you want them to be better for themselves and you want them to be better now. And that is going to require you to be honest with yourself that this is not your process, that this is someone else's process. And someone else's process is definitely not going to look like your process. You're going to want someone who's going to be around that's going to accept the reality that this is going to take you some time. And that you're going to show up some days where you're going to try to tell them that you okay, and the truth is that you're not. And being able to identify what your role is, because you have a role to play in this. Whether you are grieving or you're the griever, there's a role that is played in this, and sometimes we don't accept the role. Um, and in those moments of people having conversations, we can become somewhat analytical. Um, and it's better to just not be that and not be judgmental. And I know Risha had said about the acceptance. I've come to terms that sometimes it takes people a long time. And some people may take the acceptance first and then go back to the anger and the bargaining. They accept the reality that it has happened, but they really haven't accepted the reality that there's part of them have to move on. Um, and depending on what type of grieving it is, there may require some forgiveness. Um, and that looks different. That definitely looks different. So I think that depending on what side of the stage we sit on, we have to identify exactly what role we play and what we want to accomplish. And it's okay to not be more present if you don't know how to be. It doesn't always require a response. Sometimes just a physical body will work. And growing through grief is a process. It's like everything else that we go through. We have to put the work in. And if we're not prepared to put the work in, we will wind up at the same space, looking for someone to blame, looking for someone else to hold accountable to because we don't want to do our own work.
That's good. That's good. And you're right. And thank you for that share. Even as put back and welcome to the stage, Coach uh, Michael Blackman Don't Cheat Claiborne, also known as Bishop Prophet Claiborne. I want to give him some space to speak in a moment as well. But, and again, and just to respond, like, subscribe, and share, guys. We are having this great conversation tonight about growing through grief. And it does require patience. It requires patience on both sides, on everyone's side. And you're totally right. If we know we don't have the capacity to manage, sometimes we want to help, but we can do more harm if we're not sure of how much we can manage. And if you find yourself at the point where you started managing, but you get a crossroad where it's too much for you, it's okay to call in, for an assist, because we don't want to leave anyone hanging. And again, this is not counseling tonight. This is conversation. We do have legitimate licensed counselors such as Pastor Sheila. She is a licensed clinician in counseling, and is available. There are other resources as well when we're talking about getting counseling and help in these situations and in these circumstances. We're talking about growing through grief during these holiday seasons, and every day, but especially during the holidays, because not everyone is as joyous as they may appear to be and as they might show up. Every smiling face is not a happy heart. And we want to keep that in mind and be sensitive to that and be mindful again, because some days, we know how to show up, but we have a hard time when things start getting real. We can start out one way in the day and something can trigger us to go another way, within that day that might then shift you into a place reminding you of your grief. And welcome to the room, Lisa Ann McGee. Thank you for joining us on tonight. I want to leave space for good coach to have a share on tonight before we begin to wrap up this conversation. I do want to, we have a few more points, I have some do's and some don'ts. And again, this is not counseling, it's just some information that we are sharing to give us some tips on how to navigate through the holiday season, and not just for others, but for us, but for ourselves as well. There are pieces of our own stories that we can, share. And I'll share mine, at the end. But, there's some tips of some things that we should do. And there's some tips of some things that we should not do that we want to share also before we end this conversation on tonight. We want to talk about some spaces of recoveries and the 3 C's of grief that will help us to build a plan to move forward, because we don't have to stay stuck in where we are. Again, everyone is missing someone from the table that we love. So we all can benefit from this. So come on, Coach. What's popping, sir?
What's happening, Lady Dawn? I see you got you. I'm gonna call you Queen Dawn tonight.
Come on. Listen, it is what it is. I decided to show up today. They made me do it. They made me do it.
Queen Dawn tonight.
Oh, you like what's that? I'm gonna wear it to the room tomorrow. I'm gonna wear it
Come on. You can be queen for the whole month. It's your birthday.
Hey, all right now, come on. Come make room for the queen. I'm coming through.
To all of the people, all of the family, all of you guys, Lady Anitra, Risha, Dr. ND, Mama Rosa, to all of you guys, it's wonderful, great share. I had forgot about it, and then remembered and was watching it on the big screen, so I could see all y'all up on the big screen and be like, okay, they talking good, but wanted to also, come on and just share. I think one of the things that's overlooked is how men handle grief. And for so long, men have really been, they're finally giving men a month. They're finally, now I'm starting to even see rooms on Clubhouse to talk about Black men and therapy, Black men and grief, because we were last on the totem pole to even, and we're still not fully been addressed or looked at. We're the last on it because grief is hard itself. It doubles when it's a man, because you have to deal with grief is a place of vulnerability, which we already know men are look to always be strong. So a lot of times we grieve by ourselves. If you go to funerals, you'll see all the women falling out. You'll see all the women going through. If in fact that you see men cry, it's a real slow Denzel Washington glory kind of tear. That's just that one. That's it. It's really, I still got to be this. I got to still be a man. So unless it's a real close, you still, or you'll see no tears at all. However, they are the ones that turn to suicide faster. It's men. They are the ones that turn to violence towards people, not because the person did us wrong, but they're in the moment and don't know where to challenge that grief energy. They don't know where to go with it. They are the ones that will cut people off, especially loved ones, especially wife, especially girlfriend. She'll get cut off. You don't understand. You don't know what I'm dealing with. And she's trying to, and he'll do that. Fourthly, they are the ones that will turn to some alternative way of numbing the pain. And so then you have more drug abuse. You have more alcohol abuse because they don't know what to do with. So I wanted to come on because grief is hard for women, but it is expected for y'all to have those weaker moments. And everybody rallies around it. It's hard when you're by yourself, but it's more accepted. Let me say that a woman can have a weak moment. But for a man to have a weak moment or a grieving moment, it's a very hard thing. I went through it in 2019 because divorce is a death. It's a death. Divorce is a death. And you go through the same grieving roller coaster. You go through the same grieving roller coaster. You know, you mad, then you're angry, then you sad again, then you pissed off, then you crying again, and now you want to fight because you're crying. I mean, if anybody know what I'm talking, you go through an emotional roller coaster. Like
Yeah.
I'm telling you, grief will take you through a roller coaster as to what in the world, and it come on out of nowhere. I remember going through the grief. I remember Lady Dawn sitting at the restaurant in a booth on my birthday, and that thing took me over. That thing, I was sitting at the booth. I had ordered my food, and here come grief. The tears just started coming down my face. Risha, I couldn't stop it. The tears were coming down because I'm doing something that I had done with someone for so many years that I really loved. I loved some people before her. I even liked some people before her. But I was in love with this person for several reasons. One is because I didn't want to fail again. I had already had 2 prior divorces before that. So I definitely did not want to fail again. So I put so much expectation on myself, and I was working so hard at it. The second thing is because God had already told me that this was a situation. So I was trying not to fail God. And then the third thing is that I had reached a part of my heart that I thought that I had reached before, but I hadn't seen it since I was 16. I had reached an inner chamber of my heart that was so closed down that this person opened up. Now, everyone says it was a good thing because now I could get to a space that I never got to. But I love people, but never knew it was to that level like it was when I was the first person I ever loved. So there was an inner chamber, Lady Dawn, that I didn't know Anitra was closed. I had hit it, and she got it. And when she got it, so here come grief. Well, grief was so bad for me during the divorce. We went from that right into the pandemic. So now I'm in a city with no family. I got nobody. I got no family. Those that were my friends were afraid to come close because of the church. So I am stuck in a house by myself. And here come a place that I preached about it. I've even told people you can come from it until you go into it. I went into a place called depression. And depression is a hole that will suck you so far down into it. You don't even know. You're sitting in the dark and don't even want to turn the lights on. You're sitting there by yourself going. And I never thought suicide, but I had moments of, God, if you don't wake me up, I'm fine. I had moments. I mean, I added to my grief. Here's one thing that helps somebody that's grieving. Whatever got you grieving, try to eliminate your time with it. What do I mean? Sometimes that urn that you think is good at your house is not as good as you think it is. Let me say it again. Sometimes that urn at your house that you think is good is not as good as you think it is in the very beginning. You may can keep it. Someone may can keep it for you, box it for you, but to see it every day will never get you out of that grief place.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're going to see it every day, Lady Dawn. It's going to be in your face every time. Even when you think you have a good day, it's going to turn into a bad day because now that's right there. Sometimes the pictures that you need to box up and put away. Slowly, the clothes. I know people say, oh my God, so hard. I know people take 2 or 3 years to get rid of it. But what they don't understand is that it's a prison. It will hold you there. And you're looking at clothes every day. And you're looking at them pictures every day. How do I know? Because Lady Dawn, even though I was in my new place, my new apartment, no one had ever lived there. She didn't live there with me. I had all this new furniture and everything else. But I had old pictures of us. I had pictures of her in my bedroom, pictures of her in my bathroom, picture at my desk. I had pictures of her hoping that she would come back. And I didn't realize it was taking me deeper into that hole.
Mm-hmm.
Mama Rose was digging me deeper and deeper and deeper into that hole because the more I saw her, the more I wanted to be with her, but the more I know she wasn't there. And so sometimes we've got to have people. My BFF is there now. You want to talk to somebody that can teach real heavy on grief? It's right here. I was there for her. She was there for me. She's been my BFF for over almost 30 years. When she went through, there were days she taught me how to handle people grieving. When she lost her son through a murder, through a death, she taught me how to deal with grieving. Because you know what she taught me? Sometimes you just got to sit there and let them grieve. You don't need people around you that always push you. Some days I would be there like I'm got you. Other days I would just sit in the hotel with her. She be crying and I'll be just sitting there. She be crying and I'll be crying. And it ain't even my job just because you sometimes that's what I mean by saying people got to be patient with you. People got to be patient with you. They got to walk you through it. She does a program like you, Lady Dawn, that you would absolutely love to have. She does a program where she teaches on that, how to deal with this. And she taught me. Now, 20-something years later, I was dealing with it. And there were times where I just needed somebody to just let me here's a word that women don't hear all the time. Here go my book, Lady Dawn. I needed a safe lap. And it didn't have to necessarily be my girl, just somewhere where I could just cry, right. Somewhere where I could just be hurt, somewhere where I could just, some days where I could just be mad. Like, I can't believe this heifer left me. I'm fine. I mean, I went to all, y'all know how I am. I'm like, she got to be out of her mind. Then I had those moments.
Right, as far as you are. Right, as far as you are. It was waiting for the
I was feeling better. That was part of the grieving. Lady Dawn, I absolutely said she lost her mind. Do she know who I am? Do she know how fine I am?
You better say this. What?
Yeah.
I know she said it's me.
It can't be me. But then I was still grieving because because the next day it went back down again. The next day went back down again. I went through it's a roller coaster. It's a crazy roller coaster. So I wanted to come on, and kind of share. She left me because she know I'm like that. Like, I would call her and be like, what's wrong with her? Don't she know who I am? And she was like, this is, it's not about you. And you got to have people that won't leave you there. What do you mean don't leave me there? Sometimes you need somebody to call you and say, oh, we're leaving the house today. I don't want to leave the house. We leaving the house today. Or you need people like this. We not talking about that. You need people who show you less. Here's where I struggle with, and I had to finally put my foot down. Stop sending me posts that she posts. Lady Dawn, I knew that would stop sending me memes and posts because they were sending me pictures and they were sending me posts that was only making me cry more. That was only making me mad. I mean, we went through the divorce. We went through the divorce, and she got engaged 2 months later, and people sent me the engagement ring. And I was mad. Risha, I was mad all over again. I was like, and it's a cheap ring. It don't even look, I went through the process. It don't look half as good as the ring that I gave her, but I was going through. You got to have people that will see what, sometimes you got some friends that stalk. They'll watch your back, make sure they ain't saying nothing. But on the same token, why they think it means good, and I'm done. I could talk on this because I went through it. But why they think, Lady Dawn, why they think they helping you, Lady Anitra, they don't realize they're hurting you. They don't mean no harm. Oh, girl, you should have saw what he did. You should have saw what he wrote. You should have saw you should have saw him at church today. And they think that they're helping you, but they don't realize that it's still adding to what you are dealing with. And so I'm grateful. I'm grateful for real friends. My BFF was there walking me through it. She a real BFF. Like, she was ready to jump in the car. I'm ready to come fight. Like, she I was like, no. So she's that. But she also helped me through the process because I was there for her. And sometimes we got to be there. So as a man, I'm glad that I had a few people around me that understood that this was a moment I was dealing with, and they didn't criticize me, but I criticized. Like, I'm not supposed to do this. And then I'm God's prophet. Lady Dawn, I really beat myself up. How can you be the man of God? How can you? So I could send you some flyers. My first moment out in 2022 when I used to do lives. I actually did it on mental health amongst preachers, amongst pastors,
It's
amongst
necessary.
men. I did that same show because I was dealing with it, and I'm saying, I promise you, and I brought people that were doctors and clinicians, and they really opened up my eyes that this is a real thing that happened to men of color that we don't want to address and the world don't want to talk about. But I'm so glad. I will say this if I don't come back. Thank you for opening this up to share this area. And while you had a lot of ladies, but allow me to come on and share from the men perspective. And I'm hoping that this go wide, that people will share it, because there's a lot of black men out here that are hurting, that are grieving, and they don't have nowhere that they can share. This this hurts, and it's okay to say this hurts. I'm mad. I don't like this. But a lot of times, and I'll say this to men if y'all listening, it's okay. You don't have to be all right. You don't have to be strong through all of the situation, through every process. It's okay to be hurting and to be grieving, and let some other people walk you through that. Thank you, Lady Dawn.
Thank you, Coach. Of course, black men don't cheat. That's another story for another time. Um, no, thank you for that share. And that's one of the beautiful things about, being in this space and this platform. My intention, like with 2025, I'm excited about what's to come and the conversations that we'll be having, because we're going to be going much deeper than where we've been this year, and having the real talk with real resolutions. Like I said, this is not counseling, this is conversation, because sometimes we need to have the conversation before we can get to the counseling, so that when we go into the counseling, we can be honest enough to say, like you said, I'm hurt, I'm struggling, I don't know how to handle this, instead of sitting on the couch and, having somebody having to pull teeth to get you to speak or to identify what is going on. As we continue to create these safe spaces for us to come and have conversations, and for me coming on and being transparent, I don't mind telling any part of my story. One of my favorite scriptures is, there's therefore no condemnation to those who are in Christ Jesus. So whatever I did, I don't really care what you say. As long as God says I'm forgiven, that's all that really matters. You don't have a heaven or a hell to put me in, so you are a non-factor. You're going to have your opinion regardless, but being able to come on and be transparent, I believe helps someone else who may not be prepared to speak up, who might be afraid to own up. And oftentimes, all you need is one. You just need one person who's willing to open up and say, hey, this is how I feel. The problem is, a lot of us don't want to be that one and don't want to be the first one. I struggle with that in those moments like these, especially when we're in the church. The church is supposed to be the safe place. The church is supposed to be the refuge, the sanctuary, where people run into and should be able to come and tell whatever it is that they're going through, whatever it is that they're doing. What's the challenge out now? We listen and we don't judge. I really believe that the church has to adapt that challenge. We listen and we don't judge, because guess what? One day it was us that was walking in through the door, not needing judgment, but needing someone to listen. And we forget those things, we forget those moments, and we make it one of the most unsafe spaces, one of the most exposed areas. And it's like, where is God in that? If God doesn't expose my business, then why should I expose yours? I'm going to leave that there. But this platform and this space is so that we can have conversations and people know, yep, I did that. Yep, I sure did. And every time that you see me, know that you are looking at, what's my favorite word, Coach? Reform. Reform and alleged. Some things are alleged, some things are factual, but I'm reformed. I am reformed. I'm guilty of many things. And I have been guilty of many things. And I am reformed. And it's the fact that we can sit up here, we can have these conversations and be transparent that encourage other people to know that there is yet hope, even in what you're going through, even in your imperfections, even in your struggles, and even in your situations, even in those moments of, of wrong. There is still hope. When you look at each one of us, we all have a story to tell. Yep. And like I said, I just got to the point, it took a lot for me to be honest and say, I'm hurt. I'm hurt. That's a lot for me to say. I'm free to say it now. Like, yep, I'm hurt. It hurt. What happened hurt. Wounded. It was painful. I did not like it. It's extremely uncomfortable. God, this is why I said I hate feelings. I don't like emotions. Like, leave me in my numb state because I don't want to feel this mess, But it reminds me that we have a heart of flesh that still beats, and it is vulnerable and it is delicate. And we have to learn how to handle each other with such care. I'm careful with people. In your grief, in your go through, in your backslide, in your bad choices, I've learned to be careful with people because at the end of the day, they still belong to God. And guess what? God will show up for his children. So I cannot afford to drop anybody, any one of y'all, because I'm more afraid of God. What you gonna do when you show up because I hurt your child? And that's my moral compass. Everybody's moral compass is different. God is mine. Again, God's girl. You're gonna get some Jesus when you get me. Every time. But I'm more afraid because we are his creation. What are we gonna do? So that space of patience, I have to show it. I have to share it, whether I want to or not, in spite of what we go through, no matter what we're feeling. And I appreciate your shares. And I definitely, in 2025, when we come back, going to revamp some things, but creating that space for men. That's why I, did the men's lounge. So the men can have a safe, open space to speak and share, and the goal is so that we be better by the time it's over. It has to start somewhere. We have to create safe spaces for everyone so that we can grow through and past these things. We can't afford for stuff to continue to trip us up that we've been dealing with for 10 years. We have more days behind us than we have in front of us, and we have to make decisions on how you're going to spend those days. Is what you're doing really yielding you the results? What's the phrase? How's that working out for you? Are you willing to sit down and do the hard work it's going to take for you to actually grow up and grow through whatever you are going through? Or are we going to continue to repeat this cycle of situations, that we have to deal with, that we are dealing with? Either way, there's work to be done. Because, I realize it takes a lot more work to stay stuck than it does to move forward. I didn't always know that. The fight and the struggle that we go through is because we're fighting to stay in a place that's not meant for us to stay. God doesn't mean for us to stay stuck in grief. He expects us to grow through it so that we can be an example to someone else, on how you can get through this. Life and time happens to us all. I put on my Facebook page the other day, time is filled with swift transitions. That song just kept coming to me. And I was like, my God, you're right. Swift transitions, but when we are willing to grow through those transitions, we are blessed and we're able to help somebody else. So I thank you for coming and sharing that male perspective. You are always welcome on this platform every single time. And I'm going to take full advantage of your lack of being able to get out and get around like, you normally would be. Now that you are stationary for a little bit, so I'm absolutely going to abuse that privilege to the maximum, just so you're aware. So thank you so much, Coach. And thank you to your best friend, Michelle. That's right, girl. I love you already. I love you already. You are the best. We all need a friend like you. And listen, that's the kind of best friends I have. I keep telling people, y'all better be careful, okay? Because don't let me unleash, and I mean this in the best positive way. You better listen, my best friends are just like that. They will show up like, what? Ready to put them fists up. Don't make me unleash. Don't make me tell them it's okay. It's go time. They'll be like, what? We ready to go. Everybody needs a friend that's like that, who has our back like that, and have the capacity to cover us all around. Hey, Patricia, it's good to see you. So glad you joined us tonight. Thank you, Jenny, for being in the house. Michelle says, and I know we have some comments, and I want to make sure, I just want to read these comments. Mom, I know you have something to say and share. Who's missing? I think Anitra fell off. Okay. Jenny Wilson says blessings. Michelle says teach. She says just went through that on last night. Listen, ma'am, if I could tell you, but thanks be unto God who gives us the victory. She says don't stay stuck. Bishop says, Risha said, make safe decisions with your life. Listen, I'm so putting that on a t-shirt for her. I so am. She said that part. Said, listen, don't play. She also says at the end of the day, it is all for ministry. Amen. It is. That's what it's for. And that's what it is about. So I'm so glad you all came on and joined us on tonight. I do want to give space for everyone to share. I want to thank Lady Anitra for coming on for her time on this evening. I so appreciate each and every one of you every week. Sometimes we try to be mindful of the time, but I also realize that we have to take time for moments like these. We no longer have time not to take time. So I appreciate you all for being with us on tonight and for sharing on this topic of growing through grief. I hope something in the conversation thus far has been said that you will walk away with, and it'll help you get on that start of growth. Again, I'm going to end with some do's, a couple of do's if you don't, and another key point, but I want to make sure to give space to our panelists on tonight, the Thursday night squad, as I call them, my peoples. So I'm going to start. I'm going to ask everybody to take 2 minutes to share. Mom, I know you wanted to say something, and I'm sorry I kept muting your mic. I was getting a little feedback. So I'm going to unmute you. And then when she's done, we can go to ND, and then to Risha, and then to Coach Claiborne, and then we're going to bid it good night. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mommy.
And I mean this in the most respectful way. I really do. It really grieves me, honestly, when I hear there's distinction between how one gender feels and another one doesn't. And I don't really think it is so. I think we have become separated as a people by those type of innuendos. I really don't. Pain is pain. It doesn't really matter whether you're male, female, whether you're black, it's the approach, and if I'm mistaken, I'm going to make sure that I do that. That's going to be my dissertation for my doctorate when I finish, because I feel very strongly about that. I think that we have allowed ourselves to be separated as a people. I think this is part of the problem in relationships between us as a people, as a culture, that we put distinctions, we exclude. It's not an exclusion, it's an inclusion Yeah, men have been told, and again, I'm saying this most respectful way, just being very honest. Men have been told for the longest time, not don't cry because they're supposed to be strong or whatever. But at the same time, there were other things that were taught to us in church when it's Mother's Day. I hated Mother's Day. Hated it because then they pass out a white flower and a red flower. My mother's deceased, so I got the flower for the deceased mother. I didn't want to be picked. Everybody knew. There's certain things that we teach each other, and it's time for us to come beyond that. It's time for us to come beyond that, and the only way for us to come beyond that, grief is grief, pain is pain, divorce is divorce. I'm suffering. I went through my divorce based on my temperament, based on my emotions, and based on my strength. Another person went through theirs based on theirs. And I think when we kind of come to the place where we respect each other for each other, being that individual, and stop making it, like the doctrines that we've made that separated us as the body of Christ. And we're not the Pentecostal. It's a Pentecostal experience. It's not the Baptist. We get baptized and all these things. And I think we need to, honestly, in order to be a safe place and in order to be that support for each other, I think we need to get rid of some of the weight that we've been carrying and really understand that we're separating from each other by the compartmentalizing ourselves, and that's just my share.
Thank you for that, Mom. And and we do understand that. Great point on both sides. Um, I think it's just, because we've been taught differently gender wise, we digest things differently gender wise. So, we have to, and like I said, with all due respect, so we do have to honor that. And we're working. Conversations like these are opportunities for us to work on bridging that gap and bonding the genders back together to a place of unity, so that we're not looking at it as one greater or one less. But men do feel and process differently than women do, because we're just wired differently. But you make a great point, and thank you for that share. Come on, ND, give us your 2-minute closing comments, ma'am.
I guess the only thing that I would have to really say is that grief is not a curse. Grieving is not a curse. And I think that people need to know that it is okay not to be okay. We just don't want you to stay there. Grieving is a process and it takes time. And we want you to take the time. We want you to invest in your healing and what it may look like. And just because you may get to a place where you're okay doesn't mean that there won't be moments along your journey that may trigger and try to take you back or make you recount or make you feel that you're not in a good place. Process that, but don't stop the journey. The journey of grieving is healing. It's self-discovery. It's self-improvement. It's self-love, and these are the things that we need to focus on. Yes, the pain hurts, but we don't have to stay in that place of pain. We are only as good as what we overcome, and just take it one day at a time, and don't allow anybody to make you feel bad in your journey, because it is your journey and you have to take it. And there may be a time where you just may have to take it by yourself, but just as you're traveling, don't stop. Take a rest, but get up and keep going.
Amen. Take a rest. Don't stop. Take a rest. Get up and keep going. Grieving is a journey. Absolutely. Come on, Risha, give us your 2-minute closing comments.
Real quick, I just to kind of piggyback off of what Coach Claiborne said. It's disheartening to watch how men suffer in silence and alone. And How you know that it's true, if you've ever been to a funeral and there's a shift in the atmosphere when a man breaks down and cries. Like it literally sends um the place into a tizzy, because we don't know how to manage that or handle that, because we don't see it that often. So in saying that, I want to say this for those of us who are assisting somebody through grief. When you realize, or if you get to a space where you realize the situation or the circumstances bigger than you can handle, please call in reinforcements. I wrote down, because what happens is when the situation gets too big for us, what we want to do, because we're trying to help, is to try to shrink the situation or shrink the atmosphere. But in doing that, you minimize the person's feelings. And instead of it being about them, it is now about you and your inability to handle the weight or the magnitude or the massiveness of the space. So as I wrote down, telling someone not to feel or to hurry up and get over it, or any of those things, that's not about them. It's about you. And it happens because we are uncomfortable in the helplessness to fix it. We are not called to fix. We are not called to save. We are just called to be. And if being is too heavy for that situation, then be a good friend and call somebody else.
Amen. We are not called to fix or to save, and we are called to be. And if it gets too heavy, call someone else. That's good. Come on, Coach Black Men Don't Cheat. Claiborne, give us your 2-minute closing comments, sir.
This has been absolutely wonderful. I'm glad that I was able to get on here for a few minutes just again to share and to help people through it. One of the things that I would say as a friend or family, don't take it personal. My grieving is not your grieving. What do you mean don't take it personal? They may say something or they may be upset at that moment, or they may say get out, or a series of things. You can't take it personal. I try to be there for you and I ain't gonna be there no more. They are grieving. You cannot take it personal. This is not about you. And so as a friend, if they tell you stick right, stick right. If they tell you to leave, then leave in that moment. But you got to also know the signs that a person is grieving. One of the signs is we know that is crying. One is crying. 2 is isolation. If you see a person who's always in the life of the party, always around, but now they're so isolated, you haven't heard from them in several days. They haven't texted you. They haven't called you. You haven't heard them for a week. And let me go to their house and find out what's going on with Lady Dawn. Why she hasn't texted me. What's happening with her? Why I text her, she don't respond back? No, I need to find out what's going on with Risha. I need to fly into. I don't care. My friend didn't live in my city. She didn't live in my state. And Lady Dawn, I would drive to her. I would fly to do whatever I needed to do to get to her, because of the mere fact is that you got to be able to understand why you're not calling me back. One of the things sometimes insomnia. Mm-hmm. Can't sleep. I remember doing 3 o'clock in the morning, sitting on the floor in the dark, because depression had overtook me. I couldn't sleep, and then it really got me, and I found myself sitting in the corner, just so broken. Nobody there at 3 o'clock in the morning. So sometimes insomnia, sometimes no longer caring about self-care. Self-care is how I feel, how I'm grooming. You go over the house and you like, Lord, when is the last time you took a shower? This person is in that space. And you got to know that they are in that space. These are some of the signs, and hopefully you guys will be able to repeat and hear it. Some of the signs that I saw, anxiety, the loss of an appetite, the loss of control. These are some of the things that we need to pay attention to know that a person is in that grieving process. You got to be. I used to hear when I lost my brother, Lady Dawn. I used to hear my sister-in-law, sometime 3 a.m, just screaming, and I just would be laying there praying, Lord, help her, or just be angry, or just she would have some moments where she didn't feel like eating. You got to, this may not look like it to everybody, but these are some of the things, the way it looked like. And I think if we could, my BFF agrees that we could get more people to see the symptoms and what it looks like, then we probably could catch a lot of suicide. We could catch a lot of drug abuse. We can catch a lot of some people are in jail that probably shouldn't be there. They were in the moment of grieving. I know some DUIs, Lady Dawn, of people who never drank, but they were grieving. They went to that bar, they went to that club, they went to drinking, and they out driving. They're crying, tears is running down. I know what it is to drive, Risha, and the tears that I could barely see.
Yeah.
As a man, because I don't owe none of these people anything, so I can tell them, so I can help them. I know what it is that I'm telling you, lady, my eyes are so full. I had to pause at the stop sign and be like, just so I could get people going. I believe that if there were people that sat on that jury, or there were people that worked with some of these folks, some people are in jail today because they had a moment of grieving and it hurt somebody. They had a moment of grieving and they hurt their child. You don't know what it is to be in that space and to deal with that place. I'm just giving you guys just a few things that I really think that if you look into it, it really can help some other, so you can kind of notice the signs, and go look for them and be there, be a friend, be a family, and as Risha say, if it ain't you, find somebody.
Right.
If it ain't you, get somebody else to do it. And one of the things that my sister, my bishop, and I had come to the conclusion, and Lady Dawn, you just said it, but one of the things that I think should be added to, and some bigger churches have it, they do have grief ministries. Some bigger churches do have grief ministry. It's just some of the smaller churches that don't, and it's okay if you don't have someone in your church. There are people who are Christian counselors, who could actually, we know Lady Keisha, know Mama Rose, we know a few of them who could come to your church and help. And that's what we did for some of the people. We brought people in. If you don't have it in your church, bring somebody in. For every pastor that will listen to this and hear me, there are people in your church, I promise you, that are grieving, that are dealing with things. If you don't have a divorce ministry, we understand. If you don't have a marriage ministry, we understand. You don't have a grief ministry, we understand. But bring it. Bring it to your church. Pick a Saturday, pick a day, and invite people that are dealing with it. You'll be surprised how many people show up at your event, because they are dealing with stuff, broken relationships, dealing with divorce. Baby daddy not there. You don't, single mothers are dealing with grief, because I'm doing it by myself and I seem like I'm going under. We don't never know who it is, but I will say, find some people, find some help, get it to there. And I think it would be a great add to your church and to your ministry, is to add people that can help people walk through. If you got a bigger ministry, add this as a ministry. Find people in your church that can do it. But if you do not, it can still be done. Find some people in the city, in that community, that can help you and bring them in for a moment that kind of help your people walk through it. I believe that we will get, the Bible talks about grieving. Elijah was grieving. He went from under a juniper tree. He wanted to die. He was in depression. He was under a juniper tree. The angel said, "Why are you here?" Elijah gets up, leaves the juniper tree. What happens? He finds himself in the cave. So he went from grieving to depression. He's in the cave. And then the Lord had to say, so we see many moments of people dealing with grief, even in the Bible. And that's why we got to share it. Lady Dawn, this has been amazing. This has been also, you are always proven to deal with the hard issues that people are not or afraid to deal with. And we appreciate that because these are the times that people need it. And right now we need it more than ever. So thank you.
Thank you, prophetic boss. It's what I do. I trouble the water. It's what I do. It's supposed to. But no, I don't mind. I know the life that I've lived, and I think of the things that I wish someone really would have taken the time. And Pastor Rosa is my mother. She's my biological. For those who don't know, I'm literally 4 of 4. She pushed me out. She's known me all 55 years of my life. And she is my mother. She's the reason why I know God. But even in that, she being my mom, all 4 of her children are very different. She did not have the capacity to handle every nuance of my life and how I was wired to handle certain things. And with that being said, I try to bring to conversation some of the things that I wish someone would have had the capacity to talk me through or just be present, because they're the things that we don't want to talk about. And those are the things that are troubling us the most. Those are the things that are locking up our spirit and our soul. Those are the things that are our major stumbling blocks. One thing I've learned in spiritual warfare, we don't waste time with the imps. We gotta go. We gotta go after the strong man. Which means that in natural terms, we not gonna take time medicating what manifests. We want to dig out and dig down to the root of the matter, because the infection is not the problem. It's the source of the cut. That's the problem. And that's where we have to get to, because you can put a Band-Aid on a scratch, on a sore, but it doesn't necessarily heal the wound. It just covers it. We got to be willing to get to the root of matters. And that's why these conversations are so important. So, I love the assignment that I'm on in this space. And I appreciate everyone who comes on, who shares, those of you who are in the comments, who comment, those of you who don't. If you think this is something, prepare yourself for 2025, because we'll be digging deeper, because it's time for us to get real conversations with real resolutions. Again, this is not counseling tonight. This is conversation. We do have licensed counselors who are available, such as Pastor Sheila Ingram herself. There's Cheryl Hardy. There's a few people. And if you need those resources, we can definitely get them to you. I want to read this comment, and then I'm going to make my final comments, and we're going to be out of here for tonight, because we have another week to go, guys, and I'm excited about it. Michelle says, in the Bible, the scripture says that Job's friends sat with him. We must learn to sit in silence with people. Stop trying to fix people. And amen to that. I have to say, my best friend, she has learned how, she taught me how and the importance of sitting in silence with someone. As I was going through, she literally sat with me in silence. When I was in my lowest, at my ditch, in the ditch, she got down in the dirt with me, and laid there with me until I was ready to get up. Didn't care, didn't matter. So, we have to stop trying to fix people, and we must learn how to sit with them in silence if silence is what is needed. So I truly thank everyone for this conversation. And I want y'all to come back next week, because we're going to have a good time. Once again, I do want to just share these few points as we wrap up this conversation just really quickly. As we're talking about not rushing people through their process of grieving, respecting where people are at. And there are many different types of grief. There are many different ways to identify grief. I shared 5. There are more. Take the time, do the research for yourself so that you are aware, so that you can help yourself as well as help others. But one of the things that also we have to, and I wanted to address, I think it's an important point, I was sharing it with my mom earlier, is part of grieving. A part of grief is also survivor's remorse. Some people, that it's a very heavy place in the grieving process that we can go through. And I went through it myself from a different angle. I was about 25 years old, And the young man that I was dating at that time was shot and killed at 25. Wasn't doing anything, he wasn't in any kind of trouble or anything like that. Just kind of wrong place, wrong time. And when I wanted to mention about survivor's remorse, because a lot of people are dealing with the guilt of having to live past the loss of someone that they love, or the loss of something that they cared about, or something that they worked for. And now you are stuck with feeling guilty about being here without, and we feel like there's something we should have done, or we could have done, or that didn't have to happen, or if I just did this, or I just did that. Now, how that applies to my story is because the night that he was shot and killed, my job was switching locations, and we had been working crazy hours, and normally he'd wait till I got home, make sure I got home. I'll call him when I get home to make sure I was safe, and he'd go do whatever else he needed to do. And that night I stayed at work about 2 hours later than I normally would have, because I needed to finish what I was doing. And when we spoke, and I said, listen, I'm going to be getting home late. So, I just wanted to let you know, because I knew you were expecting a call from me at whatever time. And he's like, okay. He said, no. I said, so, go ahead, do what you're going to do. We'll talk tomorrow. He said, no, I'm going to wait till you get home. Just call me when you get home and let me know you're home safe. So he waited, and it was 2 hours later. And when I got home, I called him to say, okay, I'm home now. He's like, all right, good. I'm going out. I'm going to meet up with the fellas and whatever else. And I said, great, wonderful, be safe. We'll talk in the morning. He said, okay, I'm going to go upstairs, check my grandparents, and I'm out. No problem. Business as usual. The next morning I woke up getting ready to head to work again for day number, I don't even know, 36 probably, and I called his house. And I'm taking the time to share this because I think it's important. But I called his house. His mother answered the phone, and I greeted her I very respectfully. And I said, hey, can I talk to, his name was Reggie. And I said, can I talk to Reggie? And she was just like, good morning. How are you? You okay? And I said, yes, I'm fine. And I said, speak to Reggie. And she said, I'm sorry, but Reggie was shot and killed last night. And just that quick. And I think I went silent for a minute, and I was living with my mom at the time, and I just lost it to the point where my mother came and took the phone, and his mom was sharing with her, so call me back when she gets herself together. I'm saying this to say, in that situation, I dealt with grief and survivor's remorse at 25. I was young. I didn't know anything about any of that, how to deal with that. How do you manage that? And I felt guilty because I said, if I would have left work when I was supposed to, he would have left earlier and been where he was supposed to be. If I, if I just stuck with, I felt like it was my fault that he was at the place that he was at the time that he was, because he was waiting to make sure I was okay. And I didn't. I felt like I failed him because I put him in a position where he was not okay. And I didn't know how to identify that back then. I did not know how to even process that. I remember at his funeral, standing at his coffin and just praying like, God, if you raise Lazarus, you can raise him too. I mean, because I just went all the way there, and I didn't understand how to work through that. And I carried that guilt for many years. So much so to the point where when I met my son's father, and we got married later on, in the beginning of our relationship, I think a year in, I was still carrying this grief. I was still carrying this pain because I did not know how to process it. And it stays bottled up. And this is why I'm encouraging us to take the steps that we need to in grief, to learn how to process and identify what we are going through, so that we are not continuing to carry it like it's a normal part of life and a part of our weight, because it's not. And it affected my relationship so much in the way that my son's father said to me one day, you know what? He said, I can do a lot of things, but I cannot compete with a ghost. He said, because you are still carrying that relationship with you. You're still carrying that guilt with you. I'm in a whole nother relationship. So we carry those things with us until we process them properly. But I didn't have anyone with me who could explain to me. I didn't have this knowledge then that I have now. So I hope in my sharing this story that I'm helping someone to understand the importance and the different kinds of grief, and the importance of taking the time to self-assess or talk to someone now that we do have this type of information available, so that we are not carrying, so that we're not bringing other people or putting ourselves in positions and in relationships where we are forcing people who had nothing to do with our grief to compete with the different ghosts and loss that we've experienced in our past. We have to grow through these things. Michelle says, I know that feeling as well. Wow. Yeah. I did not know. I was remorseful about having survived, about still being here, and I had to take the guilt off of myself to realize that no matter what I would have done, I could not change that situation. And so I had to learn how to process my grief through that. And I'm going to be honest, it took me about 10 years. I really, in the past, maybe 10, 15 years, just stopped remembering when Labor Day comes around. I don't get the edgy feeling again, anymore, because it will manifest itself in different ways so that you are aware, because grief will come out at some point, So I want to encourage us to make sure that we are getting the help or the assistance, the information that we need, so that we can process these things and grow through them. I am so thankful and blessed that I'm in such a healthy space right now where I can talk about it. I can share it. And it's not a burden to me, but it is a joy, because this is one of those moments that God gives us beauty for our ashes, And as I said, I'm reformed. I'm a reformed griever, and now I'm a joy carrier, So again, I want to thank everyone for joining us in this conversation on tonight. And as we shared, just a few don'ts when you're dealing with people in grief or grieving at whatever point. Don't try to fix their grief. It's a process. It's not a problem to be solved. Don't pressure them to talk. Don't compare their loss to other people's losses. Don't give unsolicited advice. And don't encourage professional help if their grief encourage professional help, only when their grief is impacting their daily life. And when they're having difficulty coping. So let's make sure that we, pay attention to what we should not do to those who are grieving. What we do want to do is maybe offer resources for some grief counseling and support groups. There's a lot of community resources that are free, books. And as Coach Claiborne mentioned about that self-care piece, make sure, that they are doing these things. Do look out for one another. What we do want to do is listen actively, empathetically. We want to validate their emotions. We want to offer practical assistance, just like with their everyday tasks. Hey, let me grab this from the store for you. Hey, let me do your laundry. Let me bring you dinner. Whatever that looks like. We want to respect their boundaries. If they don't want to talk or they don't want to be bothered, we have to respect their boundaries. We want to avoid minimizing their loss. Their time is not our time, as we've shared numerously throughout the night. And we want to be able to share memories, offer comfort, and those type of things. I also want to share as we close the 3 C's of grief that will help build a plan to move forward, because that's the other thing. It's about growing through it. We have to move forward, helping someone to move forward. So 3 of the C's of helping to build a plan with someone to move forward. Never forgetting, we don't want them to forget, but we do want to help them move forward, is 1. And if this is you don't need to forget, but you do need to learn to move forward. To choose what's best for you. Connect. Do not disconnect from people who are willing to be there to help you, but it's a time to connect. And 3, communicate. Don't give the silent treatment. Communicate what you need. If it's space and time, communicate that. We can say that. Recovering from grief and breakups it takes time, and sometimes you have to limit um, communications, learn to focus on yourself, create distance, and seek support in your growth and your moving forward. I just want to encourage you to create new memories and traditions that honor or incorporate your loved one, so that there may not be their physical loss may be there, but their presence is still present. So while they're missing from you physically, create a new tradition or a new memory that will incorporate them into your moments, so that their presence is still present. Be honest with yourself and allow yourself to feel whatever it is you're feeling. And for every sad moment, find a joyful memory. Whether it's through writing, journaling is helpful to express and release your feelings. Know that it's okay to be happy or to have happy times, to enjoy yourself. You're not betraying your loved one or whatever it is that you've lost by enjoying life. In fact, do something that they would enjoy and do it in their honor. So those are just some suggestions on tonight that we want to offer in the help of helping to grow through grief. And again, I want to thank each and every one of you for this time well spent on tonight. Thank you, Risha, my Texas Queen. Thank you, Anitra, who had to drop off. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mama Pastor Rosa. Make sure you join the Ladies of Grace tomorrow at 11 a.m. over across the street at the Sheila Ingram Ministries Network. Thank you, Dr. ND, always coming with the Power Pack Gems. Thank you, Coach Black Men Don't Cheat Claiborne, for always coming, speaking up, enlightening us on what men deal with and go through, being the man's voice in a woman's world. I'll just play it. But thank you for coming on and sharing. Join us next week. It's the last Thursday in December, right after Christmas at 7 p.m. right here, Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be talking about wrapping it up. Let's wrap it up. I'm not even going to tell you what that conversation is about. Just be prepared to wrap it up. So have a great night, everyone. I appreciate you. Like, subscribe, and share. We'll see you next Thursday. Come dressed and prepared if you like. We're going to celebrate and have a good time. So have a great night, everybody. Panel, hang out with me for 2 seconds, and we are out. Love you all. Be encouraged.
Rest of my life the best of my life. Yeah, I'ma make the rest of my life.